everyone. Welcome. Yeet Meetus, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the Powerhouse. I'm glad to have you. Hi, everyone. What's going on? Welcome. It's good to see you guys. Y'all, thanks for lurking, Cootie. I appreciate you, brother. Good morning. Good morning. I gotta say hi to each and every one of you. Zeri, welcome. Congrats on getting first today. Starry, hello. Congrats on being my UDS for today. Hellion, good to see you. Wolfie, what's going on? Tay, hello. Lava, good to see you. Hey girl, welcome to the channel. I see you've been following for like a couple of weeks now, but I'm glad you're able to stop by and chat. Fairview, what's going on? Julian, welcome. Bienvenido. Nitrex, how's it going? And Yeet Meetus. Yeet Memes. Why did I say Yeet Meetus? What the fuck? Greetings, friend. Greetings. Glad to have you here. Yeet Memes. Linda, hello, darling. Good to see you. And City, hola. What's going on, City? And of course, Cootie. Mwah. I hope you guys are all doing well. About to go to bed? You want me to read you to sleep? I'd enjoy that. Rainstorm, hello. Good to see you. Can we talk about how Genshin Impact probably has one of the best video game soundtracks of all time? I'm cute. You want to talk? I'm thinking about playing Genshin again just because I love the soundtrack so much. Would you guys enjoy that if I played Genshin on stream? Just like explore the different areas. I wouldn't even like grind, you know? I just like exploring. Yes, Starry. That's my name. Can you carry me in Genshin? Is that even a thing? I don't know. Genshin soundtrack's too good. I know, right? It's crazy. It's so good. Like, I got chills when I explored Liyue for the first time. Oh, Nitrex, I see what you want. Ara. Morning voice is strong today. Miss Nitrex, you are such a good girl, darling. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so glad you're here. Hey, Harley. Thank you for the head rub. Good luck to you. I got good vibes this morning. What about you guys? What's your you gonna clip this? Oh my goodness. You do what you gotta do, okay? It's morning for me. I live in Japan. It's 8 a.m. for me. You're an EU friend. I got you. I did get some good sleep. Thank you, Starry. I slept very well. Germany. Oh, I want to go back to Germany at some point. I got to go when I was in high school. I went on this trip for we were in music. So there was like a band, an orchestra, and a choir. And we traveled around Europe performing in different countries. And we were in Germany for a few days. We went to Dinkelsbühl and Passau. And God, I love Passau so much. I think, what was it? The St. Stephen's Cathedral? Something like that. It's so gorgeous. They have like the second or third largest pipe organ in the world. Something like that. What's up, Alec? Dude, that's not a vagina emo. It's a mitochondria. It's good to see you, brother. Fair enough, Starry. Fair enough. Yo, Lisa, thank you for the lyric. Enjoy your coffee, okay? Alec, why are you coming in here and dissing my emotes, huh? The powerhouse. Exactly. Yeah, I'm Mito and you're mitochondrias. That's how it works. You got a clip now? Fair enough, fair enough. You gotta do what you gotta do. That's why my community's called the Powerhouse. Anyone who didn't know, that's why we're called the Powerhouse, because I'm Mito and you're mitochondrias. That first sip of water in the morning, it hits so different. Especially if it's like cold water. You feel it like sliding down your throat. Yes. Okay, this song is not really what I'm going for. Now you can rest well. Hell yeah. Enjoy your rest, Nitrix. Thanks for lurking, Lava. I appreciate you. Sorry, I can't make any promises, but it's very likely that I will want to. We'll see, we'll see. I do have some things that I should do today. Hey, Poofy, welcome in. Good to see you. I will also be completely upfront with you. I was going to go to 7-Eleven this morning to get some breakfast, but I got out of bed too late. I realized I didn't have time before stream. So, I'm gonna stay in just chatting for a bit. I ordered some food. It should be here in like a minute or two. I'm gonna munch on it with you guys. I don't really like eating on stream, but sometimes the times are hard to work with. But I'd rather eat and be fueled for the day, fueled for the stream, than otherwise, you know? So it is a sacrifice I'm willing to make just to be able to keep going for you guys, you know? Yeah. Absolutely, Starry. I hope you're all doing well. How's everyone's day been going? Tell me about it. I want to hear everything. What did you have for dinner? If you didn't have dinner yet, what did you have for lunch? Sorry, you're ridiculous. Okay, I don't know if this is just me, but I don't like children singing in my songs. It's not a vibe that I go for. Alright, my food is here. I'm gonna go grab it. Not too shabby. Still can't wait to leave this shithole you call home. By home, do you mean the house that you are living in, or do you mean the area? That's a good question. I'll do that when I get back. And we're doing one at a time now, Starry. I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab my food. The area? That makes sense. I was gonna say, you have a nice apartment. Did mine not eat yet? No, I'm eating right now. I just got my food. I apologize. But food is important. Yo, Larix, what's going on, brother? I was not AFK long enough for you to sneak in here unnoticed. I'll tell you got some artwork done. Good stuff, good stuff. Another ramen week. Ah, man. That's a mood. As long as I'm eating, I am. Don't worry. Don't you worry. I take care of myself. The question is, do you guys take care of yourselves? Because that's important too. Chilling with your 3 cats? Aw. Do they like to cuddle? You do? You don't eat out a lot? I eat out quite a bit. But I also go to restaurants sometimes. You're currently sick, so you get snot? Oh, that's so unfortunate. They do like to cuddle? Good. I know some cats are a little bit antisocial. You haven't eaten much today? Go eat. I'm eating. Eat with me. It's important, you know? I want you guys to all be healthy so that you can show up and hang out with me. Because if you're sick, then it's not going to be as fun for anyone. You can't? Oh, you're right, Zariam. I didn't. Hey, Abby. Welcome in. All right. This one time, I'll do it for both Poofy and Zeri. But in the future, good girl or good boy is going to be one person at a time, okay? Poofy, Zeri, you're both so good. And I'm so glad to have both of you here. That's okay, Starry. I just made that change like a couple days ago, and I didn't say anything about it, so I don't blame you for not reading the description. I just think whoever redeems it deserves to have 100% of my attention. I want each of you to feel special here. It's important for me. You are, Epi. You are. My voice is so soothing. I'm glad you think so. You are indeed a special star. Yes, you are, and I'm not going to argue with you. No one gets to talk down on themselves in my chat and get away with it. Yeah. Poofy. Poofy, you're such a good girl, and I'm so proud of you. You're doing so many good things. Keep it up. Whoa. Dyson corner. Hey, Luna, welcome in. It's good to see you. I hope you're doing well today. I'm just having a little breakfast, and then we're going to get into the reading. Got to make sure I am fueled for the day, you know? Luna, what did you have for dinner today? If you had dinner. I am almost done eating, though, so it shouldn't be too much longer. What are we reading today? I'd really like to continue Coraline. I enjoyed reading that very much. I would also like to read more Name of the Wind because it's my favorite. Yeah, Star, you can put that in the music channel in the Discord if you like. That's totally fine. That's what it's there for. Aside from those two, I don't know. Maybe we'll read some more Edgar Allan Poe. Your hands are shaking? Probably because you didn't eat. Go eat food. If you can. What was the Wind one you mentioned? Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I think the series is called The Kingkiller Chronicles. And it's my favorite book. I love the format of it. I love the writing style. I love the content, the world building, the like system of magic. It's fucking awesome. So much about it. Yeah, you like it too, Epi? Fuck yes. I mean, I think it's a pretty popular book as far as like fantasy series go. But it always makes me happy to see other people I like read through half of it. I can't remember why I didn't finish it, but I didn't I don't think I finished the little novella. Yo, Mark. What's going on, brother? The keyboard recommendation? I think I just recommended the one that I have. It's the let's see. It's the Razer. Is it Black Widow? No. Let's see. Razer Black Widow. Ah, yes, it is the Black Widow. Okay. Yeah. Razer Black Widow. I think I have the V3 and I have the 10 keyless model, so it's a little bit smaller. But this keyboard is very nice. I think I have whichever switches are like the blue switches, like the ones that don't have the click. Do you perchance know? Wait, blue switches are the ones that do click, aren't they? I don't remember. Fuck, I forgot to. Okay. Zeri, if you redeem one more hydrate, you're getting mod removed. I don't fuck around with the hydrates. I will do Poofy's hydrate and that's it. You did it twice. Oh, no, Poofy did it once. You did. Yeah, you did it once. Sorry. Zeri did it twice. Poofy, you're fine. You're scared? Aw. No, nothing to be scared about. Oh my goodness. Yo, Leaf.
That's what I've been waiting for.
Thank you for the raid, brother. What's going? A friendly breeze brings you. That's so fucking cute, man. I love that shit. Yes. Go follow Leaf. He's a very kind person. Very fun. And he streams a lot of League of Legends. What were you up to today? Let's see. You're playing Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag. Black Flag, very cool, very cool. You haven't touched League in a while? Good for you, man. Good for you. Why this clip? I don't know. Clips be like that. Let's see. I kind of want to turn off my alerts for today. Boom. And we could do that.
Yes! Oh my god. That was my first penta. I didn't mean to yell. That was my first penta. Let's fucking go.
Oh, that's
my
cute.
God.
Yeah, that works. That works. Okay. Why that one? Aw. But it's cute though. You got your first penta. That's fucking awesome. We love to see it. She was good. I'm glad to hear that. Hell yeah. Yeah, I think the first time that I caught one of Leaf's streams, he was playing Abzu or maybe Journey. Something like that. Been doing a lot of variety stuff. Ooh. Very cool. Yeah, I've been doing a little bit of variety stuff myself. But like today we're doing some ASMR reading. By the way, my name is Mito. I'm a villain VTuber. It's nice to meet all of you. If you didn't know who I was. Chances are you haven't. I haven't been in Leaf stream in a while, unfortunately. Lately though, Stardew and Assassin's Creed 4 have been the current ones. Ooh. Stardew is always fun. Marshy. Hello. Welcome in, darling. It's good to see you. You already know me. You cheeky little... You're new here? You hush. You guys are ridiculous. Hey, Viva, welcome in. It's good to see you. If you're looking for a decent audiobook... Interesting. I'll keep that in mind, Epi. If you want to put that suggestion in my Discord, because I'm going to forget. How have I been? It's been too long. It really has. It's been quite a while. I've been good. I've been very busy lately, but I've been good. Yeah. How about yourself? You just woke up? Wow, you're on my sleep schedule. You woke up later than I did. Holy shit. Might as well move to Japan at this point, Viva. Been good. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, yeah. All right. No yawning. No yawning. I need to wake up. Just gotta get ready for work and eat something. Yeah. Make sure to get some food in you. You went to sleep later than me, to be fair? That's wild. Oh, well, I'm glad you stopped by to say hello, Marshy. I appreciate you. I hope you have a lovely night. Hi, Hime. Mito toast and eggs? Boiled eggs and soldiers? What? I'm confused, Epi. What's going on? Breakfast. Ah. Oh, that's right. What did I do for music last time we did this? I did the Skyrim atmospheres. Oh, no, don't worry about it, Leaf. If you got a raid and dip, that's totally fine, brother. Do what you gotta do, get ready for work. Take some time to recharge after stream. I very much appreciate the raid. Thank you so much, man. Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna have a great stream. I can feel it. I hope you have a great day at work, bro. It's all good. It happens. You got this. Okay, let's see. I want to get some nice music. Some nice atmospheric music. Yeah, that sounds good, Viva. Okay, we got this. Yeah. Thank you for lurking, brother. Love you too. Yes, yes. I love this so much. Am I the only one that's afraid to have open containers of liquid on their desk? I feel like I always use a bottle and I always screw the lid back on when I'm not actively drinking from it. You know, I play FPS games, so I'm always afraid that I'm going to bump into my keyboard and just knock some shit over. And I have a laptop too, so it's just all right there. If I get a coaster, I have a coaster. Hey, Panda. Welcome in. Or you said you like to be called Wadi, right? Hi, Wadi. It's good to see you. Yeah, I'm too terrified that I'm gonna fry my laptop. That's and it's never happened before either. It's just an unreasonable fear. You have 3 monitors? Damn. You have a history of knocking over beer on your keyboard? That's spooky. I've spilled a couple of things on my keyboard, but it's fine. I made sure to clean it all up. People keep spilling milk on their keyboards. All these YouTubers keep posting pics. Oh my goodness. I'm not doing that to my keyboard. Intentionally. Again. It is milk? Yeah. It is. You hear that, Twitch staff? It is milk. You don't gotta worry about it. Yeah. Milk of the one-eyed dragon. You can milk dragons, you can milk this one. No getting tired, Mido. Come on. No getting tired. You have a dragon? Yeah, it's a small one. Hime. My goodness. Alright, what do you say we get into some reading, yeah? How do you guys feel? You're feeling good, right? I'm feeling good. You feeling good? I'm feeling good. Ah, I need to get a lurk tab open real quick. Beautiful, beautiful. Yes, yes, yes. Pour water on me? No, I don't want you to pour water on me. What do you mean? Why would I want that? Lore. Oh, welcome in, Preciosa. It's okay, Lore. It's okay. Sleep is important. You feel like choking from all the anger you felt? Why are you so angry, Hime? 50 Shades of Mido? Oh my goodness. Oh, a stretch redeem. Oh, Wadi, thank you for the head rub. Good luck to you. You have homework to do? You'll be able to do it. Don't worry. Don't worry. I have faith in you. You've shown your faces? Hmm. Why are you drooling, Laura? Wait, what? 50 Shades of Mido, a book about Mido slaying ghosts with his holy baseball bat. Oh my god. You flashed Grace earlier? Wow. I'm jealous, low-key. Laura's pretty as fuck. I do know that. I know she's very pretty. I think she posted a picture in the Discord at one point. Alright, what do you guys want to read first? Let's do a poll. What to read first? Coraline. Oops. Wait, what the? Shift tab. There we go. Coraline. Name of the Wind. Or Edgar Allan Poe. We'll do a 2-minute poll. Just a nice short one. You're not very pretty? That is a lie. You need to speedrun your homework so you can fall asleep to my voice. Aww. That's okay. You can take your time with your homework. We'll be going for a few hours. Why is the music so quiet? I think the YouTube video worked better, to be honest. Let me pull that up. My goodness. Hello? Yeah, there we go. There we go. Much better. Happy. No, I like to take my time. Absolutely. I'm not gonna let it be fast. Oops. There we go. Okay. All right. Let's see what we're reading first. Name of the Wind. You guys like it? Oh, I'm so glad. You won't say anything sussy right now? That's up to you. Being rough is your default. You're curious what fast is like? Just strap me to a chair and force it out of you at this point. I just might. Careful what you ask for. Okay. So, the last time we did this, we got through the first chapter. We got through the prologue and the first chapter of The Name of the Wind, if I remember correctly. You're not asking, you're demanding? Noted. Then we'll make it happen. Yeah. All right. How about we get started, yeah? Let me put the name of the book in the title. Beautiful. All right. And, oh, that's right. ASMR. Yes, yes, yes. Shall we? You guys are ridiculous. Chapter 2. Oh wait, let's do a little summary of what we missed. If you weren't here last time we did this, we meet Coat, the owner of an inn in this small town. And there were some people having dinner in the inn, and they were telling stories. They were talking about the Chandrian. And then one of their friends walks into the inn with cuts on his body and something wrapped in a rug, or in a rag. And they open it up to find a dead spider that feels hard like ceramic. They decide it's a demon, and they burn it. But Coat knows what it is, and Coat and his apprentice Bast talk about it in their room. That's basically what happened so far. Let's do a summary. So we strap Lore to a chair. Not yet. We'll get to that though. Oh my god, Lore. I don't know how to respond to that. You guys are all in a mood today, aren't you? I'm gonna have to tie you all down so I can get through this book. Chapter 2. A Beautiful Day. It was one of those perfect autumn days, so common in stories and so rare in the real world. The weather was warm and dry, ideal for ripening a field of wheat or corn. On both sides of the road, the trees were changing color. Tall poplars had gone a buttery yellow, while the shrubby sumac encroaching on the road was a was tinged a violent red. Only the old oaks seemed reluctant to give up the summer, and their leaves remained an even mingling of gold and green. Everything said, you couldn't hope for a nicer day to have half a dozen ex-soldiers with hunting bows relieve you of everything you owned. "She's not much of a horse, sir," Chronicler said. "One small step above a dray, and when it rains, she..." The man cut him off with a sharp gesture. "Listen, friend, the king's army is paying good money for anything with 4 legs and at least 1 eye. If you were stark mad and riding a hobby horse down the road, I'd still take it off you." Their leader had an air of command about him. Chronicler guessed he had been a low-ranking officer not long ago. "Just hop down," he said, seriously. "We'll get this done with, and you can be on your way." Chronicler climbed down from his horse. He had been robbed before and knew when there was nothing to be gained by discussion. These fellows knew their business. No energy was wasted on bravado or idle threats. One of them looked over the horse, checking hooves, teeth, and harness. 2 others went through his saddlebags with a military efficiency, laying all his worldly possessions out on the ground. 2 blankets, a hooded cloak, a flat leather satchel, and his heavy, well-stocked travel sack. Lord Jesus. Oh my goodness. You guys are too much. "That's all of it, Commander," one of the men said. "Except for about 20 pounds of oats." The commander knelt down and opened the flat leather satchel, peering inside. "There's nothing but paper and pens in there," Chronicler said. The commander turned to look backward over his shoulder. "You a scribe, then?" Chronicler nodded. "It's my livelihood, sir, and no real use to you." The man looked through the satchel, found it to be true, and set it aside. Then he upended the travel sack onto Chronicler's spread cloak and poked idly through the contents. He took most of Chronicler's salt and a pair of bootlaces. Then, much to the scribe's dismay, he picked up the shirt Chronicler had bought back in Linwood. It was fine linen dyed a deep royal blue, too nice for traveling. Chronicler hadn't even had the chance to wear it yet. He sighed. The commander left everything else lying on the cloak and got to his feet. The others took turns going through Chronicler's things. The commander spoke up. "You only have 1 blanket, don't you, Jans?" One of the men nodded. "Take one of his then. You'll need a second before winter's through." "His cloak is in better shape than mine, sir." "Take it, but leave yours. The same for you, Whitkins. Leave your old tinderbox if you're taking his." "I lost mine, sir," Whitkins said, "else I would." The whole process was surprisingly civilized. Chronicler lost all of his needles but 1, both extra pairs of socks, a bundle of dried fruit, a loaf of sugar, half a bottle of alcohol, and a pair of ivory dice. They left him the rest of his clothes, his dried meat, and a half-eaten loaf of incredibly stale rye bread. His flat leather satchel remained untouched. While the men repacked his travel sack, the commander turned to Chronicler. "Let's have the purse, then." Chronicler handed it over. "And the ring?" "There's hardly any silver in it," Chronicler mumbled as he unscrewed it from his finger. "What's that around your neck?" Chronicler unbuttoned his shirt, revealing a dull ring of metal hanging from a leather cord. "Just iron, sir." The commander came close and rubbed it between his fingers before letting it fall back against Chronicler's chest. "Keep it, then. I'm not one to come between a man and his religion," he said, then emptied the purse into one hand, making a pleasantly surprised noise as he prodded through the coins with his finger. "Scribing pays better than I thought," he said as he began to count out shares to his men. "I don't suppose you could spare me a penny or 2 out of that?" Chronicler asked. "Just enough for a couple of hot meals?" The 6 men turned to look at Chronicler as if they couldn't quite believe what they had heard. The commander laughed. "God's body, you certainly have a heavy pair, don't you?" There was a grudging respect in his voice. "You seem a reasonable fellow," Chronicler said with a shrug, "and a man's got to eat." Their leader smiled for the first time. "A sentiment I can agree with." He took out 2 pennies and brandished them before putting them back into Chronicler's purse. "Here's a pair for you, then." "Here's a pair for your pair, then." He tossed Chronicler the purse and stuffed the beautiful royal blue shirt into his saddlebag. "Thank you, sir," the Chronicler said. "You might want to know that bottle one of your men took is wood alcohol I use for cleaning my pens. It'll go badly if he drinks it. The commander smiled and nodded. You see what comes of treating people well? He said to his men as he pulled himself up onto his horse. It's been a pleasure, Sir Scribe. If you get on your way now, you can still make Abbott's Ford by dark. When Chronicler could no longer hear the hoofbeats in their distance, he repacked his travel sack, making sure everything was well stowed. Then he tugged off one of his boots, stripped out the lining, and removed a tightly wrapped bundle of coins stuffed deep into the toe. He moved some of these into his purse, then unfastened his pants, produced another bundle of coins from underneath several layers of clothes, and moved some of that money into his purse as well. The key was to keep the proper amount in your purse. Too little, and they would be disappointed and prone to look for more. Too much, and they would be excited and might get greedy. Thank you for lurking, Zeri. Yo, what's up, Ryan? Good to see you, good to see you. And Danny, hello, hello. How much chat have I missed? Good to see you guys. There was a third bundle of coins baked into the stale loaf of bread that only the most desperate of criminals would be interested in. He left that alone for now, as well as the whole silver talent he had hidden in a jar of ink. Over the years, he had come to think of the last as more of a luck piece. No one had ever found that. Just woke up? Welcome to consciousness. He had to admit, it was probably the most civil robbery he'd ever been through. They had been genteel, efficient, and not terribly savvy. Losing the horse and saddle was hard, but he could buy another in Abbott's Ford and still have enough money to live comfortably until he finished this foolishness and met up with Scarpy and Treya. Feeling an urgent call of nature, Chronicler pushed his way through the blood-red sumac at the side of the road. As he was rebuttoning his pants, there was sudden motion in the underbrush as a dark shape thrashed its way free of some nearby bushes. Chronicler staggered back, crying out in alarm before he realized it was nothing more than a crow bearing its wings into flight. Chuckling at his own foolishness, he straightened his clothes and made his way back into the road, through the sumac, brushing away invisible strands of spiderweb that clung tickling to his face. As he shouldered his travel sack and satchel, Chronicler found himself feeling remarkably lighthearted. The worst had happened, and it hadn't been that bad. A breeze tussled through the trees, sending poplar leaves spinning like golden coins down the road, or down onto the rutted dirt road. It was a beautiful day. It's raining, full moon, a Mito bedtime ASMR reading stream. This day couldn't get any better. You're so sweet. Lay between my thighs while you read. On my way, god damn. Lord. Lord, do you need to go AFK for a few minutes? Damn. Hydrate? I can do that. Hey, Egypt, what's going on? I hope you're doing well today. You don't need to do anything? Uh-huh. Yeah, I totally believe you. Well, that was the end of chapter 2. Alright, you guys ready for chapter 3? Alright. Chapter 3. Yes? We're whispering sweet things in between people's legs now. Where do I sign up? Oh my goodness. You guys are ridiculous. Yo, Mick, welcome in. Hey, Harrisaur, what's going on, brother? It's good to see you. We're doing something a little bit different today. You get down bad when you wake up? Clearly. Suffering in League? Bro, just do what everyone else is doing and quit the game. Lost like 5 games in a row? Play Valorant with me instead. League sucks. Valorant's where it's at. That's the way the world is now. You just got to accept that. Alright. Chapter 3. Wood and Word. Coat was leafing idly through a book, trying to ignore the silence of the empty inn when the door opened and Graham backed into the room. Just got done with it. Graham maneuvered through the maze of tables with exaggerated care. I was going to bring it in last night, but then I thought, one last coat of oil, rub it, and let dry. Can't say I'm sorry I did. Lord and lady, it's beautiful as anything these hands have ever made. You wanted to play Fall Guys on Peach's stream? It requires an Epic account now. Yikes. Yeah, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. Mick, thank you for the head rub. I appreciate it. Posture check? I got you. Oh. Is that so, Egypt? You're in welcome company. A small line formed between the innkeeper's eyebrows. Then, seeing the flat bundle in the man's arms, he brightened. Ah, the mounting board. Coat smiled tiredly. I'm sorry, Graham. It's been so long I'd almost forgotten. Graham gave him a bit of a strange look. 4 months ain't long for wood all the way from Arian, not with the woods being as bad as they are. You've always been down bad, you're just never ballsy enough to say it. I believe that. Laura's a shy little bean. 4 months, Coat echoed. He saw Graham watching him and hurried to add, that can be a lifetime if you're waiting for something. He tried to smile reassuringly, but it came out sickly. In fact, the innkeeper himself seemed rather sickly. Not exactly unhealthy, but hollow. Wan. Like a plant that's been moved into the wrong sort of soil and, lacking something vital, has begun to wilt. Graham noted the difference. The innkeeper's gestures weren't as extravagant. His voice wasn't as deep. Even his eyes weren't as bright as they had been a month ago. Their color seemed duller. They were less sea foam, less green grass than they had been. Now they were like riverweed, like the bottom of a green glass bottle. And his hair had been bright before, the color of flame. Now it just seemed red, just red hair color, really. Coat drew back the cloth and looked underneath. The wood was a dark charcoal color with a black grain, heavy as a sheet of iron. 3 dark pegs were set above a word chiseled into the wood. Folly, Graham read. Odd name for a sword. Coat nodded, his face carefully blank. How much do I owe you? He asked quietly. Graham thought for a moment. After what you've given me to cover the cost of the wood, there was a cunning glimmer in the man's eye. Around 1 and 3. Coat handed over 2 talents. Keep the rest. It's difficult wood to work with. Oh, Harazor, oh my god. Guess where you are? Are you in my VC? You are. Someone go keep Lore company. She could probably use the distraction. Yo, Takashi, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the Powerhouse. Just saw you from Twitter and recommendations. Damn, I was on Twitter and on recommended on Twitch. Sheesh, I'll take that. I'm glad you found your way here. Today we're reading Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. It's one of my favorite books. And later we'll probably read some Coraline as well. Perhaps some Edgar Allan Poe as well. Sid of the North, thank you for the follow and welcome to the Powerhouse. I have notifications turned off today since we're doing ASMR, but I appreciate you and I see you. But she might eat me? Oh my goodness. You would, but you're recording. No worries, no worries. You love Poe, right? His stories are so good. Yeah. We might get to Edgar Allan Poe later. We'll see. But I very much like The Name of the Wind and Coraline. I might just spend all day reading those. Sid says he knows you from Twitter. I'm not surprised. Yeah. I've been loving Twitter lately. It's an addiction. With some cuddles. Yeah, I like cuddles. I like cuddles a lot. Too much, maybe. Alright, shall we? Oh, you're in VC with Sid? I got you. Alright, where were we? That it is, Graham said with some satisfaction. Like stone under the saw. Try a chisel like iron. Then, after all the shouting was done, I couldn't char it. I noticed that, Coat said with a flicker of curiosity, running a finger along the darker groove the letters made in the wood. How did you manage it? Well, Graham said smugly, after wasting half a day, I took it over to the smithy. Me and the boy managed to sear it with a hot iron. Took us better than 2 hours to get it black. Not a wisp of smoke, but it made a stink like old leather and clover. Damnedest thing. What sort of wood don't burn? Graham waited a minute, but the innkeeper gave no signs of having heard. Where would you like me to hang it, then? Coat roused himself enough to look around the room. You can leave that to me, I think. I haven't quite decided where to put it. Momo, welcome in. You've maybe cuddled once or twice, Laura? You've almost never cuddled anyone? Maybe we can change that someday. You're on my cuddle list, Laura. You want to sleep again? Hey, nothing wrong with a little cat nap. You know, if you doze off, it's just a compliment to me. I'm glad you enjoy my voice. Momo, how have you been? It's good to see you. What's going on? Graham left a handful of iron nails and bid the innkeeper a good day. Coat remained at the bar, idly running his hands over the wood and the word. Before too long, Bast came out of the kitchen and looked over his teacher's shoulder. There was a long moment of silence, like a tribute given to the dead. Eventually, Bast spoke up. May I ask a question, Reshi? Coat smiled gently. Always, Bast. A troublesome question? Those tend to be the only worthwhile kind. They remained staring at the object on the bar for another silent moment, as if trying to commit it to memory. Folly. Busy with work, but so glad to be able to see me. I'm so glad too. Bast struggled for a moment. Inumaki Katsuki, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the powerhouse. I'm glad to have you here. Bast struggled for a moment, opening his mouth, then closing it with a frustrated look, then repeating the process. Out with it, Coat said finally. My goodness. What were you thinking? Bast said with an odd mixture of confusion and concern. Coat was a long while in answering. I tend to think too much, Bast. My greatest successes came from decisions I made when I stopped thinking and simply did what felt right, even if there was no good explanation for what I did. He smiled wistfully, even if there were very good reasons for me not to do what I did. Bast ran a hand along the side of his face. So you're trying to avoid second-guessing yourself? Coat hesitated. You could say that, he admitted. I'll hydrate. Thank you, Lord. I could say that, Reshi, Bast said smugly. You, on the other hand, would complicate things needlessly. Coates shrugged and turned his eyes back to the mounting board. Nothing to do but find a place for it, I suppose. Out here? Bast's expression was horrified. Coat grinned wickedly, a measure of vitality coming back into his face. Of course, he said, seeming to savor Bast's reaction. He looked speculatively at the walls and pursed his lips. Where did you put it, anyway? In my room, Bast admitted, under my bed. Coat nodded distractedly, still looking at the walls. Go get it, then. He made a small shooing gesture with one hand, and Bast hurried off, looking unhappy. The bar was decorated with glittering bottles, and Coat was standing on the now vacant counter between the two heavy oak barrels when Bast came back into the room, black scabbard swinging loosely from one hand. Coat paused in the act of setting the mounting board atop one of the barrels and cried out in dismay. Careful, Bast, you're carrying a lady there, not swinging some wench at a barn dance. Bast stopped in his tracks and dutifully gathered it up in both hands before walking the rest of the way to the bar. Coat pounded a pair of nails into the wall, twisted some wire, and hung the mounting board firmly on the wall. Hand it up, would you? He asked with an odd catch in his voice. Using both hands, Bast held it up to him, looking for a moment like a squire offering up a sword to some bright armored knight. But there was no knight there, just an innkeeper, just a man in an apron who called himself Coat. He took the sword from Bast and stood upright on the counter behind the bar. He drew the sword without a flourish. It shone a dull gray-white in the room's autumn light. It had the appearance of a new sword. It was not notched or rusted. There were no bright scratches skittering along its dull gray side. But though it was unmarred, it was old. And while it was obviously a sword, it was not a familiar shape. At least no one in this town would have found it familiar. It looked as if an alchemist had distilled a dozen swords, and when the crucible had cooled, this was lying in the bottom, a sword in its pure form. It was slender and graceful. It was deadly as a sharp stone beneath swift water. Coat held it a moment. His hand did not shake. Then he set the sword on the mounting board. Its gray-white metal shone against the dark roa behind it. While the handle could be seen, it was dark enough to be almost indistinguishable from the wood. The word beneath it, black against blackness, seemed to reproach folly. Coat climbed down, and for a moment he and Bast stood side by side, silently looking up. Bast broke the silence. It is rather striking, he said, as if he regretted the truth, but... He trailed off, trying to find appropriate words. He shuddered. Coat clapped him on the back, oddly cheerful. Don't bother being disturbed on my account. He seemed more lively now, as if his activity lent him energy. I like it, he said, with sudden conviction, and hung the black scabbard from one of the mounting board's pegs. Then there were things to be done. Bottles to be polished and put back in place. Lunch to be made. Lunch clutter to be cleaned. Things were cheerful for a while in a pleasant, bustling way. The two talked of small matters as they worked, and while they moved around a great deal, it was obvious they were reluctant to finish whatever task they were close to completing, as if they both dreaded the moment when the work would end and the silence would fill the room again. Then something odd happened. The door opened and noise poured into the waystone like a gentle wave. People bustled in, talking and dropping bundles of belongings. They chose tables and threw their coats over the backs of chairs. One man, wearing a shirt of heavy metal rings, unbuckled a sword and leaned it against a wall. 2 or 3 wore knives on their belts. 4 or 5 called for drinks. Coat and Bast watched for a moment, then moved smoothly into action. Coat smiled and began pouring drinks. Bast darted outside to see if there were horses that needed stabling. In 10 minutes, the inn was a different place. Coins rang on the bar. Cheese and fruit were set on platters, and a large copper pot was hung to simmer in the kitchen. Men moved tables and chairs about to better suit their group of nearly a dozen people. Coat identified them as they came in. 2 men and 2 women, wagoneers, rough from years of being outside and smiling to be spending a night out of the wind. 3 guards with hard eyes, smelling of iron. A tinker with a pot belly and a ready smile showing his few remaining teeth. 2 young men, one sandy-haired, one dark, well-dressed and well-spoken. Travelers sensible enough to hook up with a larger group for protection on the road. The settling in period lasted an hour or 2. Prices of rooms were dickered over. Friendly arguments started about who slept with whom. Minor necessities were brought in from wagons or saddlebags. Baths were requested and water heated. Hay was taken to the horses, and Coat topped off the oil in all the lamps. 2 young men. Yeah. The tinker hurried outside to make use of the remaining daylight. He walked his 2-wheel mule cart through the town streets. Children crowded around, begging for candy and stories and shims. When it became apparent that nothing was going to be handed out, most of them lost interest. They formed a circle with a boy in the middle and started to clap, keeping the beat with a children's song that had been ages old when their grandparents had chanted it. When the hearth fire turns to blue, what to do? Run outside, run and hide. Laughing, the boy in the middle tried to break out of the circle while the other children pushed him back. Tinker, the old man's voice rang out like a bell. Pot mender, knife grinder, willow wand water finder, cut cork, mother leaf, silk scarves off the city streets, writing paper, sweetmeats. This drew the attention of the children. They flocked back to him, making a small parade as he walked down the street, singing. Belt leather, black pepper, fine lace and bright feather, tinker in town tonight, gone tomorrow. Working through the evening light, come wife, come daughter, I've small cloth and rose water. G-Call, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the Powerhouse. Glad to have you here. After a couple of minutes, he settled outside the Waystone, set up his sharpening wheel, and began to grind a knife. As the adults began to gather around the old man, the children returned to their game. A girl in the center of the circle put one hand over her eyes and tried to catch the other children as they ran away, clapping and chanting. When his eyes are black as crow, where to go, near and far, here they are. The tinker dealt with everyone in turn, sometimes 2 or 3 at a time. He traded sharp knives for dull ones and a small coin. He sold shears and needles, copper pots, and small bottles that wives hid quickly after buying them. He traded buttons and bags of cinnamon and salt, limes from Tinue, chocolate from Tarbian, polished horn from Erue. All the while the children continued to sing. See a man without a face, move like ghosts from place to place. What's their plan? Chandrian. Coat guessed the travelers had been together a month or so, long enough to become comfortable with each other, but not long enough to be squabbling over small things. They smelled of road dust and horses. He breathed it in like perfume. Best of all was the noise. Leather creaking, men laughing. The fire cracked and spat. The woman flirted. Someone even knocked over a chair. For the first time in a long while, there was no silence in the Waystone Inn. Or, if there was, it was too faint to be noticed or too well hidden. Coat was in the middle of it all, always moving, like a man tending a large, complex machine. Ready with a drink just as a person called for it, he talked and listened in the right amounts. He laughed at jokes, shook hands, smiled, and whisked coin off the bar as if he truly needed the money. Then, when the time for songs came, and everyone had sung their favorites and still wanted more, Coat led them from behind the bar, clapping to keep a beat. With the fire shining in his hair, he sang Tinker Tanner, with more verses than anyone had heard before, and no one minded in the least. Hours later, the common room had a warm, jovial feel to it. Coat was kneeling on the hearth, building up the fire, when someone spoke behind him. Quoth? The innkeeper turned, wearing a slightly confused smile. Sir? Sir? Normand? Sir? Thank you for the 13 months, brother. God damn. I appreciate it, my man. How you doing? It's good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Sir? It was one of the well-dressed travelers. He swayed a little. Your Kvothe. Coat, sir, Coat replied in an indulgent tone that mothers used on children and innkeepers used on drunks. Quoth the bloodless. The man pressed ahead with the dogged persistence of the inebriated. You looked familiar, but I couldn't finger it. He smiled proudly and tapped a finger to his nose. Then I heard you sing, and I knew it was you. I heard you in Imre once, cried my eyes out afterward. I never heard anything like that before or since. Broke my heart. I appreciate the lurk, Normand. Good luck at work, bro. Hope you have a good day. The young man's sentences grew jumbled as he continued, but his face remained earnest. I knew it couldn't be you, but I thought it was, even though. But who else has your hair? He shook his head, trying unsuccessfully to clear it. I saw the place in Imre where you killed him, by the fountain. The cobblestones are all shattered. He frowned and concentrated on the word. Shattered. They say no one can mend them. What? Who said anything about fingering? What? Lore, oh my goodness. Alright, I guess we know where your mind is at. Oh, you looked familiar, but I couldn't finger it. Was the line. Okay, moving on. The sandy-haired man paused again. Squinting for focus, he seemed surprised by the innkeeper's reaction. The red-haired man was grinning. Are you saying I look like Kvothe? The Kvothe? I've always thought so myself. I have an engraving of him in my back. My assistant teases me for it. Would you tell him what you just told me? Coat threw a final log onto the fire and stood. But as he stepped from the hearth, one of his legs twisted beneath him and he fell heavily to the floor, knocking over a chair. Hyaster, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the powerhouse. Glad to have you here. Several of the travelers hurried over, but the innkeeper was already on his feet, waving people back to their seats. No, I'm fine. Sorry to startle anyone. In spite of his grin, it was obvious he'd hurt himself. His face was tight with pain, and he leaned heavily on the chair for support. Took an arrow in the knee on my way home, or on my way through the Eld 3 summers ago. It gives out every now and then. He grimaced and said wistfully, It's what made me give up the good life on the road. He reached down to touch his oddly bent leg tenderly. Hello. Welcome in. What, Starry? Holy crap, what? What are you saying? $800? Did we actually hit 800? Yo, we did. What the fuck? This is crazy. Caster, thank you for being my 800th follower. I appreciate it. We were just at 700 like a week ago. That's fucking crazy. Slay, yeah. Goddamn. At this rate, I'll be at 1K before the end of the year. Fingers crossed. That'd be fucking awesome. What a way to end the year that would be. Trying to follow and unfollow to drive everyone crazy. Nah, don't do that. Your follow age will be reset. Wait, can I see follow age for myself? Mido is not following Mido. Damn it. Aw, thank you, Yaster. I appreciate it. Am I saying your name right, by the way? 1 year, 5 days, 5 hours. Damn. I think you need to give the bot like a couple of seconds before you try follow age again. 13 days, 23 hours. It's really been that short of a time. It feels like longer. It's wild. Right? It feels like you've been around for so long. Oh my god, Zeri, that watch time. That's crazy, dude. 15 days, 20 hours, almost 16 days. Wait, Poofy and Lore followed at the same time? Literally within 2 hours of each other. That's fucking awesome. Yeah, Starry's been around for a little bit longer. That's funny. Follow age sisters, yeah. Yeah. You followed during the same stream, I'm guessing. Love to see that. I'm glad you met us too. I'm glad I met you. Alright, shall we continue? One of the mercenaries spoke up. I'd put a poultice on that or it'll swell terrible. Coat touched it again and nodded. I think you are wise, sir. He turned to the sandy-haired man who stood swaying slightly by the fireplace. Could you do me a favor, son? The man nodded dumbly. Oh, right back at you, Laura. Just close the flue. Coat gestured toward the fireplace. Bast, will you help me upstairs? Bast hurried over and drew Coat's arm around his shoulders. Coat leaned on him with every other step as they made their way through the doorway and up the stairs. Arrow in the leg? Bast asked under his breath. Are you really that embarrassed from taking the little fall? Thank God you're as gullible as they are, Coat said sharply as soon as they were out of sight. He began to curse under his breath as he climbed a few more steps, his knee obviously uninjured. Bast's eyes widened, then narrowed. Coat stopped at the top of the steps and rubbed his eyes. One of them knows who I am, Coat frowned. Suspects. Which one? Bast asked with a mix of apprehension and anger. Green shirt, sandy hair. The one nearest to me by the fireplace. Give him something to make him sleep. He's already been drinking. No one will think twice if he happens to pass out. Bast thought briefly. Nightmane? Menka. Bast raised an eyebrow but nodded. Coat straightened. Listen 3 times, Bast. Bast blinked once and nodded. Coat spoke crisply and cleanly. I was a city-licensed escort from Rallian. Wounded while successfully defending a caravan. Arrow in right knee. 3 years ago, summer, a grateful Sealdish merchant gave me money to start an inn. His name is Deolin. We were traveling from Purvis. Mention it casually. Do you have it? I hear you 3 times, Reshi. Bast replied formally. Go. Stephanie, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the powerhouse. Glad to have you here. Half an hour later, Bast brought a bowl to his master's room, reassuring him that everything was well downstairs. Coat nodded and gave terse instructions that he not be disturbed for the rest of the night. Is the music too loud, guys? I'll turn it down a little bit. Closing the door behind himself, Bast's expression was worried. He stood at the top of the stairs for some time, trying to think of something he could do. It is hard to say what troubled Bast so much. Coat didn't seem noticeably changed in any way, except perhaps that he moved a little slower, and whatever small spark the night's activity had lit behind his eyes was dimmer now. In fact, it could hardly be seen. In fact, it may not have been there at all. Coat sat in front of the fire and ate his meal mechanically, as if he were simply finding a place inside himself to keep the food. After the last bite, he sat staring into nothing, not remembering what he had eaten or what it tasted like. The fire snapped, making him blink and look around the room. He looked down at his hands, one curled inside the other, resting in his lap. After a moment, he lifted and spread them, as if warming them by the fire. They were graceful, with long, delicate fingers. He watched them intently, as if expecting them to do something on their own. Then he lowered them to his lap, one hand lightly cupping the other, and returned to watching the fire. Expressionless, motionless, he sat until there was nothing left but gray ash and dully glowing coals. Oh my god. Okay, I'm gonna drink more water. Holy shit. Enduring Chaos, welcome in, darling. Good to see you. Stretch? Yeah, that's a good call. I'll stretch twice. Things are going very well, Chaos. Thank you so much. I hope the same for you. That was a nice stretch. Shy, I'm not sure if I said hi to you. Hello, hello. Goofy, thank you for the head rub. I appreciate you. You love stretches? I do too. Very good for you and me. Oh my goodness. Hi. Good to see you. God, I just want to keep stretching. I feel so tight. I feel better now. Okay, let's try that sentence again, yeah? Expressionless, motionless, he sat until there was nothing left but gray ash and dully glowing coals. I could use a back massage as absolutely. I would love that. You offering? Because I'll take you up. Get over here. Hop on a plane to Japan. Just to give me a back massage. Next time I'm across the world, bet. As he was undressing for bed, the fire flared. The red light traced faint lines across his body, across his back and arms. All the scars were smooth and silver, streaking him like lightning, like lines of gentle remembering. The flare of flames revealed them all briefly, old wounds and new. All the scars were smooth and silver except one. The fire flickered and died. Sleep met him like a lover in an empty bed. The travelers left early the next morning. Bast tended to their needs, explaining his master's knee was swollen quite badly, and he didn't feel up to taking the stairs so early in the day. Everyone understood except for the sandy-haired merchant's son, who was too groggy to understand much of anything. The guards exchanged smiles and rolled their eyes while the tinker gave an impromptu sermon on the subject of temperance. Bast recommended several unpleasant hangover cures. After they left, Bast tended to the inn, which was no great chore, as there were no customers. Most of his time was spent trying to find ways to amuse himself. Sometime after noon, Coat came down the stairs to find him crushing walnuts on the bar with a heavy leather-bound book. Good morning, Reshi. Good morning, Bast. Coat said. Any news? Rider Captain Rain. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to the powerhouse. I'm glad to have you here. The Orson boy stopped by. Wanted to know if we needed any mutton. Coat nodded, almost as if he had been suspecting the news. How much did you order? Bast made a face. I hate mutton, Reshi. It tastes like wet mittens. Coat shrugged and made his way to the door. I've got some errands to run. Keep an eye on things, will you? I always do. Misty, thank you for the lurk. Glad to see you. Outside the Waystone Inn, the air lay still and heavy on the empty dirt road that ran through the center of town. The sky was a featureless gray sheet of cloud that looked as if it wanted to rain but couldn't quite work up the energy. Coat walked across the street to the open front of the smithy. The smith wore his hair cropped short and his beard thick and bushy. As Coat watched, he carefully drove a pair of nails through a scythe blade's collar, fixing it firmly onto a curved wooden handle. Hello, Caleb. The smith leaned the scythe up against the wall. What can I do for you, Master Coat? Did the Orson boy stop by your place too? Caleb nodded. They still losing sheep? Coat asked. Actually, some of the lost ones finally turned up. Torn up awful, practically shredded. Wolves? Coat asked. The smith shrugged. It's the wrong time of year, but what else could it be? A bear? I guess they're just selling off what they can't watch over properly, then being short-handed after all. Short-handed? Had to let their hired man go because of taxes, and their oldest son took the king's coin early this summer. He's off fighting the rebels in Menat now. Meneras, Coat corrected gently. If you see their boy again, let him know I'd be willing to buy about 3 halves. I'll do that. The smith gave the innkeeper a knowing look. Is there anything else? Well, Coat looked away, suddenly self-conscious. I was wondering if you have any wrought iron lying around, he said, not meeting the smith's eye. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, mind you. Just plain old pig iron would do nicely. Caleb chuckled. I didn't know if you were going to stop by at all. Old Cobb and the rest came by day before yesterday. He walked over to a workbench and lifted up a piece of canvas. I made a couple extra just in case. Cobb picked up a rod of iron about 2 feet long and swung it casually with one hand. Clever man. I know my business, the smith said smugly. You need anything else? Actually, Coat said as he settled the bar of iron comfortably against his shoulder. There is one thing. Do you have a spare apron and a set of forged gloves? Could have, Caleb said hesitantly. Why? There's an old bramble patch behind the inn. Coat nodded in the distant. Coat nodded in the direction of the waystone. I'm thinking of tearing it up so I can put in a garden next year, but I don't fancy losing half my skin doing it. The smith nodded and gestured for Coat to follow him into the back of the shop. I've got my old set, he said, as he dug out a pair of heavy gloves and a stiff leather apron. Both were charred dark in places and stained with grease. They're not pretty, but they'll keep the worst of it off you, I suppose. What are they worth to you? Coat asked, reaching for his purse. The smith shook his head. A jot would be a great plenty. They're no good to me or the boy. The innkeeper handed over a coin, and the smith stuffed them into an old burlap sack. You sure you want to do it now? The smith asked. We haven't had rain in a while. The ground will be softer after the spring thaw. Coat shrugged. My granddad always told me that fall is the time to root up something if you don't want... My granddad always told me that fall is the time to root up something you don't want coming back to trouble you. Coat mimicked the quaver of an old man's voice. Things are too full of life in the spring months. In the summer, they're too strong and won't let go. Autumn. He looked around as the changing leaves on the trees. Autumn's the time. In autumn, everything is tired and ready to die. Later that afternoon, Coat sent Bass to catch up on his sleep. Then he moved listlessly around the inn, doing small jobs left over from the night before. There were no customers. When evening finally came, he lit the lamps and began to page disinterestedly through a book. Fall was supposed to be the year's busiest time, but travelers were scarce lately. Coat knew with bleak certainty how long winter would be. He closed the inn early, something he had never done before. He didn't bother sweeping. The floor didn't need it. He didn't wash the tables or the bar. None had been used. He polished a bottle or two, locked the door, and went to bed. There was no one around to notice the difference. No one except Bast, who watched his master and worried and waited. Okay, that's the end of chapter 3. I think I'm gonna take a second, refill my water, take some deep breaths. I'm like stumbling a little bit. Enduring Chaos, thank you for the tier 1 sub. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. You're so cute. Aw. I appreciate the support. You didn't want to interrupt? Oh, it's okay. Yeah. I very much appreciate it. You have one question left, and then you can lay in bed and listen to my voice. What's your question, darling? Hmm. Oh, one question of homework. Right. Wow, you're really getting through it. Good work. I'm proud of you. Okay, I'm gonna grab some water. I'll be back in just a moment. All right, we're back. Oh, that's not right. There we go. Hi, Izzy. Oh, it happens. Welcome in. How are you doing? This is such a nice time, guys. I'm having such a good time with you. I hope you're all enjoying yourselves as well. What type of enjoy? Lore. Lore. This is very soothing after a long day at work. I'm so glad you think so. The stream is very comfy. Thank you for thinking so. I'm glad you're all enjoying yourselves. My. My oh my. Alright, so we have a choice. Do we keep reading Name of the Wind? Or do we switch to Coraline? Let's do another poll, yeah? Wake up. What do now? Continue. Name of the Wind. Coraline. Edgar Allan Poe. Coraline is your choice. You love that book. I do too. I've been enjoying it. Guys, if you're in chat and you are not just like lurking or sleeping or something, vote in the poll. Help us figure out what to do. I want to know what you guys want. Poofy, thank you for lurking. Ah, no worries, no worries. Yeah, you do what you gotta do. Looks like a lot of people want Coraline. I'm down with that. Yeah. Alright. That works. Okay, Coraline it is. Let me get this ready here. Okay. So, where we left off with Coraline. We ended after we finished chapter 5. We're about to go into chapter 6. So, let's see how to summarize. Essentially, Coraline lives with her mother and her father, and one day she finds a door in her apartment, in her family's flat, and it goes nowhere. The door opens on a brick wall. You can't hear the live while being in a Discord call? Oh, I guess you've got to make a choice then. That's unfortunate. One day, Coraline opens the door to see that instead of a brick wall, it is a hallway, and she walks through. She finds an exact copy of her family's flat, and in it are her mother and father, only they're different. They're, like for example, her mother's fingers are a little longer, a little more slender. Her mother's a little bit taller, and instead of eyes are sewn black buttons onto her face. And such is the same with everybody she finds on this side. Her father has buttons for eyes. The neighbors have buttons for eyes. The cat that she found in the garden is the same, though. But on the other side, the cat can speak. So, where we left off is Coraline had just gone over. Ah, that's right. So, Coraline's parents had disappeared on the original side. And so, Coraline has gone to the other side once again to try to find them and bring them back. And so she went to sleep in the apartment with her other mother and her other father. Chapter 6. Coraline was woken by the mid-morning sun full on her face. For a moment, she felt utterly dislocated. She did not know where she was. She was not entirely sure who she was. It is astonishing just how much of what we are can be tied to the beds we wake up in the morning. And it is astonishing how fragile that can be. Sometimes Coraline would forget who she was while she was daydreaming that she was exploring the Arctic, or the Amazon rainforest, or darkest Africa. And it was not until someone tapped her on the shoulder, or said her name, that Coraline would come back from a million miles away with a start, and all in a fraction of a second, have to remember who she was and what her name was, and that she was even there at all. Now there was sun on her face, and she was Coraline Jones. Yes. And then the green and pinkness of the room she was in, and the rustling of a large painted paper butterfly as it fluttered and beat its way about the ceiling, told her where she had woken up. Blonde Dummy, thank you for the follow and welcome to the Powerhouse. I'm glad to have you here. You just laid down, but for some reason you're wide awake. Aw, try to relax if you can. She climbed out of bed. She could not wear her pajamas, dressing gown, and slippers during the day, she decided, even if it meant wearing the other Coraline's clothes. Was there an other Coraline? No, she realized there wasn't. There was just her. There were no regular clothes in the cupboard, though. They were more like dressing up clothes, or, she thought, the kind of clothes she would love to have hanging in her own wardrobe at home. There was a raggedy witch costume, a patched scarecrow costume, a future warrior costume with little digital lights in it that glittered and blinked, a slinky evening dress all covered in feathers and mirrors. Finally, in a drawer, she found a pair of black jeans that seemed to be made of velvet night, and a gray sweater the color of thick smoke with faint and tiny stars in the fabric which twinkled. This is so nice, I'm glad you enjoy it. She pulled on the jeans and the sweater. Then she put on a pair of bright orange boots she found at the bottom of the cupboard. She took her last apple out of the pocket of her dressing gown and then took from the same pocket the stone with the hole in it. She put the stone into the pocket of her jeans, and it was as if her head had cleared a little, as if she had come out of some sort of fog. She went into the kitchen, but it was deserted. Still, she was sure that there was someone in the flat. She walked down the hall until she reached her father's study and discovered that it was occupied. "Where's the other mother?" she asked the other father. He was sitting in the study at a desk which looked just like her father's, but he was not doing anything at all, not even reading gardening catalogs as her own father did when he was only pretending to be working. "Out," he told her, "fixing the doors. There are some vermin problems." He seemed pleased to have somebody to talk to. "The rats, you mean?" "No, the rats are our friends. This is the other kind. Big black fellow with his tail high." "The cat, you mean?" "That's the one," said her other father. He looked less like her true father today. There was something slightly vague about his face, like bread dough that had begun to rise, smoothing out the bumps and cracks and depressions. "Really, I mustn't talk to you when she's not here," he said. "But don't you worry, she won't be gone often. I shall demonstrate our tender hospitality to you such that you will not even think about ever going back." He closed his mouth and folded his hands in his lap. "So what am I to do now?" asked Coraline. The other father pointed to his lips. Silence. "If you won't even talk to me," said Coraline, "I am going exploring." "No point," said the other father. "There isn't anywhere but here." This is all she made, the house, the grounds, and the people in the house. She made it and she waited. Then he looked embarrassed and he put one finger to his lips again, as if he had just said too much. Coraline walked out of his study. She went into the drawing room, over to the old door, and she pulled it, rattled and shook. No, it was locked fast, and the other mother had the key. She looked around the room. It was so familiar. That was what made it feel so truly strange. Everything was exactly the same as she remembered. There was all her grandmother's strange-smelling furniture. There was the painting of the bowl of fruit, a bunch of grapes, 2 plums, a peach, and an apple, hanging on the wall. There was the low wooden table with the lion's feet, and the empty fireplace which seemed to suck heat from the room. But there was something else, something she did not remember seeing before. A ball of glass up on the mantelpiece. She went over to the fireplace, went up on tiptoes and lifted it down. It was a snow globe with 2 little people in it. Coraline shook it and set the snow flying, white snow that glittered as it tumbled through the water. Then she put the snow globe back on the mantelpiece and carried on looking for her true parents and for a way out. She went out of the flat, past the flashing lights door, behind which the other Mrs. Spink and Forcible performed their show forever, and she set off into the woods. Where Caroline came from, once you were through the patch of trees, you saw nothing but the meadow and the old tennis court. In this place, the woods went on farther, the trees becoming cruder and less tree-like the farther you went. Pretty soon, they seemed very approximate, like the idea of trees. A grayish-brown trunk below, a greenish splotch of something that might have been leaves above. Coraline wondered if the other mother wasn't interested in trees, or if she just hadn't bothered with this bit properly because nobody was expecting to come out this far. Nobody was expected to come out this far. She kept walking, and then the mist began. It was not damp like a normal fog or mist. It was not cold, and it was not warm. It felt to Coraline like she was walking into nothing. Hi, Vampire Catboy. Welcome in. I'm an explorer, thought Coraline to herself, and I need all the ways out of here that I can get, so I shall keep walking. The world she was walking through was a pale nothingness, like a blank sheet of paper or an enormous empty white room. It had no temperature, no smell, no texture, and no taste. You want me to stretch? I can do that. Oh, thank you, Laura. Muchas gracias, preciosa. It certainly isn't mist, thought Coraline, although she did not know what it was. For a moment, she wondered if she might not have gone blind. But no, she could see herself plain as day. But there was no ground beneath her feet, just a misty, milky whiteness. And what do you think you're doing? Said a shape to one side of her. It took a few moments for her eyes to focus on it properly. She thought it might be some kind of lion at first, some distance away from her. And then she thought it might be a mouse close beside her. And then she knew what it was. I'm exploring, Coraline told the cat. Its fur stood straight out from its body, and its eyes were wide, while its tail was down and between its legs. It did not look like a happy cat. Bad place, said the cat, if you want to call it a place, which I don't. What are you doing here? Nico! Nico, darling, thank you for lurking. Naughty little fox. And happy birthday. Thank you for the head rub, Nico. I appreciate you. You're such a sweetheart. Can you hear me right now? I know you're live. I've been lurking in your chat as well. I can't hear you, I'm sorry. What a sweetheart. She's wagging her tail. All right. Where were we? One of your IRL nicknames is Nico, and that scared you? Oh, I didn't mean to frighten you. All right. Kalulu, welcome in. Hello, hello. I'm exploring. Nothing to find here, said the cat. This is just the outside, the part of the place she hasn't bothered to create. She? The one who says she's your other mother, said the cat. "What is she?" asked Coraline. The cat did not answer, just padded through the pale mist beside Coraline. A shape began to appear in front of them, something high and towering and dark. "You were wrong," she told the cat. "There is something there." And then it took shape in the mist, a dark house which loomed at them out of the formless whiteness. "But that's," said Coraline. "The house you just left," agreed the cat. "Precisely." "Maybe I just got turned around in the mist," said Coraline. The cat curled the high tip of its tail into question mark and tipped its head to one side. "You might have done," it said. "I certainly would not. Wrong indeed." "But how can you walk away from something and still come back to it?" "Easy," said the cat. "Think of somebody walking around the world. You start out walking away from something and end up coming back to it." "Small world," said Coraline. "It's big enough for her," said the cat. "Spiders' webs only have to be large enough to catch flies." Coraline shivered. "He said that she's fixing all the gates and the doors," she told the cat, "to keep you out." "She may try," said the cat, unimpressed. "Oh yes, she may try." They were standing under a clump of trees now beside the house. These trees looked much more likely. There's ways in and ways out of places like this that even she doesn't know about. "Did she make this place then?" asked Coraline. "Made it, found it. What's the difference?" asked the cat. "Either way, she's had it a very long time. Hang on." And it gave a shiver and a leap before Coraline could blink. The cat was sitting with its paw holding down a big black rat. "It's not that I like rats at the best of times," said the cat conversationally, as if nothing had happened. "But the rats in this place are all spies for her. She uses them as her eyes and hands." And with that, the cat let the rat go. It ran several feet, and then the cat, with one bound, was upon it, batting it hard with one sharp-clawed paw, while with the other paw it held the rat down. "I love this bit," said the cat happily. "Want to see me do that again?" "No," said Coraline. "Why do you do it? You're torturing it." Said the cat. It let the rat go. The rat stumbled, dazed, for a few steps. Then it began to run. With a blow of its paw, the cat knocked the rat into the air and caught it in its mouth. "Stop it," said Coraline. "Thank you for lurking, Zeri. And a lot's good, Kalulu. How about you?" The cat dropped the rat between its two front paws. "There are those," it said with a sigh, in tones as smooth as oiled silk, "who have suggested that the tendency of a cat to play with its prey is a merciful one. After all, it permits the occasional funny little running snack to escape from time to time. How often does your dinner get to escape?" And then it picked the rat up in its mouth and carried it off into the woods behind a tree. Coraline walked back into the house. All was quiet and empty and deserted. Even her footsteps on the carpeted floor seemed loud. Dust motes hung in a beam of sunlight. At the far end of the hall was the mirror. She could see herself walking toward the mirror, looking, reflected, a little braver than she actually felt. There was nothing else there in the mirror, just her in the corridor. A hand touched her shoulder, and she looked up. The other mother stared down at Coraline with big black button eyes. "Coraline, my darling," she said, "I thought we could play some games together this morning now that you're back from your walk. Hopscotch? Happy Families? Monopoly?" "You weren't in the mirror," said Coraline. The other mother smiled. "Mirrors," she said, "are never to be trusted. Now, what game shall we play?" Coraline shook her head. "I don't want to play with you," she said. "I want to go home and be with my real parents. I want you to let them go, to let us all go." The other mother shook her head very slowly. "Sharper than a serpent's tooth," she said, "is a daughter's ingratitude. Still, the proudest spirit can be broken with love." And her long white fingers waggled and caressed the air. "I have no plans to love you," said Coraline. "No matter what. You can't make me love you." "Let's talk about it," said the other mother, and she turned and walked into the lounge. Coraline followed her. The other mother sat down on the big sofa. She picked up a shopping bag from beside the sofa and took out a white, rustling paper bag from inside it. She extended the hand with it to Coraline. "Would you like one?" she asked politely. Expecting it to be a toffee or a butterscotch ball, Coraline looked down. The bag was half filled with large, shiny black beetles crawling over each other in their efforts to get out of the bag. "No," said Coraline, "I don't want one." "Suit yourself," said her other mother. She carefully picked out a particularly large and black beetle, pulled off its legs, which she dropped neatly into a big glass ashtray on the small table beside the sofa, and popped the beetle into her mouth. She crunched it happily. "Yum," she said, and took another. "You're sick," said Coraline. "Sick and evil and weird." "Is that any way to talk to your mother?" her other mother asked, with her mouth full of black beetles. "You aren't my mother," said Coraline. Her other mother ignored this. "Now, I think you are a little overexcited, Coraline. Perhaps this afternoon we could do a little embroidery together, or some watercolor painting. Then dinner, and then, if you have been good, you may play with the rats a little before bed, and I shall read you a story and tuck you in and kiss you good night." Her long white fingers fluttered gently like a tired butterfly, and Coraline shivered. "No," said Coraline. The other mother sat on the sofa. Her mouth was set in a line, her lips were pursed. She popped another black beetle into her mouth, and then another, like someone with a bag of chocolate-covered raisins. Her big black button eyes stared into Coraline's hazel eyes. Her shiny black hair twined and twisted around her neck and shoulders as if it were blowing in some wind that Coraline could not touch or feel. "Welcome back, Egypt." "Ah, good luck on your application, Danny. Have a great night, okay?" They stared at each other for over a minute. Then the other mother said, "Manners." She folded the white paper bag carefully so no black beetles could escape, and she placed it back in the shopping bag. Then she stood up and up and up. She seemed taller than Coraline remembered. She reached into her apron pocket and pulled out first the black door key, which she frowned at and tossed into her shopping bag, then a tiny silver-colored key. She held it up triumphantly. There we are," she said. "This is for you, Coraline, for your own good, because I love you, to teach you manners. Manners maketh man, after all." She pulled Coraline back into the hallway and advanced upon the mirror at the end of the hall. Then she pushed the tiny key into the fabric of the mirror, and she twisted it. It opened like a door, revealing a dark space behind it. "You may come out when you've learned some manners," said the other mother, "and when you're ready to be a loving daughter." She picked Coraline up and pushed her into the dim space behind the mirror. A fragment of beetle was sticking to her lower lip, and there was no expression at all in her black button eyes. Then she swung the mirror door closed and left Coraline in darkness. Chapter 7. Somewhere inside her, Coraline could feel a huge sob welling up, and then she stopped it before it came out. She took a deep breath and let it go. She put out her hands to touch the space in which she was imprisoned. It was the size of a broom closet, tall enough to stand in or to sit in, not wide or deep enough to lie down in. One wall was glass. It felt cold to the touch. She went around the tiny room a second time, running her hands over every surface that she could reach, feeling for doorknobs or switches or concealed catches, some kind of way out, and found nothing. A spider scuttled over the back of her hand, and she choked back a shriek. But apart from the spider, she was alone in the closet in the pitch dark. And then her hand touched something that felt for all the world like somebody's cheek and lips, small and cold, and a voice whispered in her ear, "Hush and shush, say nothing, or the bedlam might be listening." Coraline said nothing. She felt a cold hand touch her face, fingers running over it like the gentle beat of a moth's wings. Another voice, hesitant and so faint Coraline wondered if she were imagining it, said, art thou alive? Yes, whispered Coraline. Poor child, said the first voice. Hey, Mish. We're reading Coraline by Neil Gaiman. Who are you? Whispered Coraline. Names, 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 said another voice, all far away and lost. The names are the first things to go after the breath is gone, and the beating of the heart. We keep our memories longer than our names. I still keep pictures in my mind of my governess on some May morning, carrying my hoop and stick, and the morning sun behind her, and all the tulips bobbing in the breeze. But I have forgotten the name of my governess, and of the tulips too. I don't think tulips have names, said Coraline. They're just tulips. Perhaps, said the voice sadly. But I have always thought that these tulips must have had names. They were red and orange and red and red and orange and yellow, like the embers in a nursery fire of a winter's evening. I remember them. The voice sounded so sad that Coraline put out a hand to the place where the voice was coming from, and she found a cold hand and she squeezed it tightly. Her eyes were beginning to get used to the darkness. Now Coraline saw, or imagined she saw, 3 shapes, each as faint and as pale as the moon in the daytime sky. They were the shapes of children about her own size. The cold hand squeezed her hand back. Thank you, said the voice. Are you a girl? Asked Coraline, or a boy? There was a pause. When I was small, I wore skirts, and my hair was long and curled, it said doubtfully. But now that you ask, it does seem to me that one day they took my skirts and gave me breeches and cut my hair. Tain't something we give a mind to, said the first of the voices. A boy perhaps, then, continued the one whose hand she was holding. I believe I was once a boy. And it glowed a little more brightly in the darkness of the room behind the mirror. What happened to you all? Asked Coraline. How did you come here? She left us here, one of the voices said. She stole our hearts, and she stole our souls, and she took our lives away, and she left us here, and she forgot about us in the dark. You poor things, said Coraline. How long have you been here? So very a long time, said a voice. Aye, time beyond reckoning, said another voice. I walked through the scullery door, said the voice of the one that thought it might be a boy, and I found myself back in the parlor, but she was waiting for me. She told me she was my other mama, but I never saw my true mama again. Flee, said the very first of the voices, another girl, Coraline fancied. Flee while there's still air in your lungs and blood in your veins and warmth in your heart. Flee while you still have your mind and your soul. I'm not running away, said Coraline. She has my parents. I came to get them back. Ah, but she'll keep you here while the days turn to dust and the leaves fall, and the years pass one after the next like the tick-tick-ticking of a clock. No, said Coraline, she won't. There was silence then in the room behind the mirror. Peradventure, said a voice in the darkness, if you could win your mama and your papa back from the bedlam, you could also win free our souls. Has she taken them? Asked Coraline, shocked. Aye, and hidden them. That is why we could not leave here when we died. She kept us, and she fed on us until now we're nothing left of ourselves, only snakeskins and spider husks. Find our secret hearts, young mistress. And what will happen to you if I do? Asked Coraline. The voices said nothing. And what is she going to do to me? She said. The pale figures pulsed faintly. She could imagine that they were nothing more than after images, like the glow left by a bright light in her eyes after the lights go out. It doth not hurt, whispered one faint voice. She will take your life and all you are, and all you carest for, and she will leave you with nothing but mist and fog. She'll take your joy, and one day you'll awake, and your heart and your soul will have gone. A husk you'll be, a wisp you'll be, and a thing no more than a dream on waking, or a memory of something forgotten. Hollow, whispered the third voice. Hollow, 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 hollow. You must flee, sighed a voice faintly. I don't think so, said Coraline. I tried running away and it didn't work. She just took my parents. Can you tell me how to get out of this room? If we knew, then we would tell you. Poor things, said Coraline to herself. She sat down. She took off her sweater and rolled it up and put it behind her head as a pillow. She won't keep me in the dark forever, said Coraline. She brought me here to play games. Games and challenges, the cat said. I'm not much of a challenge here in the dark. She tried to get comfortable, twisting and bending herself to fit the cramped space behind the mirror. Her stomach rumbled. She ate her last apple, taking the tiniest bites, making it last as long as she could. When she had finished, she was still hungry. Hi, Better Middle. That's quite a first message. Then an idea struck her, and she whispered, When she comes to let me out, why don't you three come with me? We wish that we could, they sighed to her in their barely their voices. Just a joke. But she has our hearts in her keeping. Now we belong to the dark and to the empty places. The light would shrivel us, burn us. Oh, said Coraline. She closed her eyes, which made the darkness darker, and she rested her head on the rolled-up sweater, and she went to sleep. And as she fell asleep, she thought she felt a ghost kiss her cheek, tenderly, and a small voice whisper into her ear, a voice so faint it was barely there at all, a gentle, wispy nothing of a voice so hushed that Coraline could almost believe she was imagining it. Look through the stone, it said to her, and then she slept. Chapter 8. The other mother looked healthier than before. There was a little blush to her cheeks, and her hair was wriggling like lazy snakes on a warm day. Her black button eyes seemed as if they had been freshly polished. She had pushed through the mirror as if she were walking through nothing more solid than water, and had stared down at Coraline. Then she had opened the door with the little silver key. She picked Coraline up, just as Coraline's real mother had when Coraline was much younger, cradling the half-sleeping child as if she were a baby. The other mother carried Coraline into the kitchen and put her down very gently upon the countertop. Coraline struggled to wake herself up, conscious only for the moment of having been cuddled and loved and wanting more of it, and realizing where she was and who she was with. There, my sweet Coraline, said her other mother. I came and fetched you out of the cupboard. You needed to be taught a lesson, but we temper our justice with mercy here. We love the sinner and we hate the sin. Now, if you will be a good child who loves her mother, be compliant and fair-spoken. You and I shall understand each other perfectly, and we shall love each other perfectly as well. Coraline scratched the sleep grit from her eyes. There were other children in there, she said. Old ones from a long time ago. Were there? Said the other mother. She was bustling between the pans in the fridge, bringing out eggs and cheeses, butter, and a slab of sliced pink bacon. Yes, said Coraline, there were. I think you're planning to turn me into one of them, a dead shell. Her other mother smiled gently. With one hand she cracked the eggs into a bowl. With the other she whisked them and whirled them. Then she dropped a pat of butter into a frying pan, where it hissed and fizzled and spun as she sliced thin slices of cheese. She poured the melted butter and the cheese into the egg mixture and whisked it some more. Now, I think you're being silly, dear, said the other mother. I love you. I will always love you. Nobody sensible believes in ghosts anyways. That's because they're all such liars. Smell the lovely breakfast I'm making for you. She poured the yellow mixture into the pan. Cheese omelet, your favorite. Coraline's mouth watered. You like games, she said. That's what I've been told. The other mother's black eyes flashed. Everybody likes games, was all she said. Yes, said Coraline. She climbed down from the counter and sat at the table. The bacon was sizzling and spitting under the grill. It smelled wonderful. Wouldn't you be happier if you won me fair and square? Asked Coraline. Possibly, said the other mother. She had a show of unconcernedness, but her fingers twitched and drummed, and she licked her lips with her scarlet tongue. What exactly are you offering? Me, said Coraline, and she gripped her knees under the table to stop them from shaking. If I lose, I'll stay here with you forever, and I'll let you love me. I'll be a most dutiful daughter. I'll eat your food and play happy families, and I'll let you sew your buttons into my eyes. Her other mother stared at her, black buttons unblinking. That sounds very fine, she said. And if you do not lose? Then you let me go. You let everyone go. My real father and mother, the dead children, everyone you've trapped here. The other mother took the bacon from under the grill and put it on a plate. Then she slipped the cheese omelet from the pan onto the plate, flipping it as she did so, letting it fold itself into the perfect omelet shape. She placed the breakfast plate in front of Coraline, along with a glass of freshly squeezed orange juice and a mug of frothy hot chocolate. Yes, she said, I think I like this game. But what kind of game shall it be? A riddle game? A test of knowledge or skill? An exploring game, suggested Coraline. A finding things game. And what is it do you think you should be finding in this hide-and-go-seek game, Coraline Jones? Coraline hesitated. Then, my parents, said Coraline, and the souls of the children behind the mirror. The other mother smiled at this triumphantly, and Coraline wondered if she had made the right choice. Still, it was too late to change her mind now. A deal, said the other mother. Now eat up your breakfast, my sweet. Don't worry, it won't hurt you. Coraline stared at the breakfast, hating herself for giving in so easily, but she was starving. How do I know you'll keep your word? Asked Coraline. I swear it, said the other mother. I swear it on my own mother's grave. Does she have a grave? Asked Coraline. Oh, yes, said the other mother. I put her in there myself, and when I found her trying to crawl out, I put her back. Swear on something else, so I can trust you to keep your word. My right hand, said the other mother, holding it up. She waggled the long fingers slowly, displaying the claw-like nails. I swear on that. Coraline shrugged. Okay, she said. It's a deal. She ate the breakfast, trying not to wolf it down. She was hungrier than she had thought. As she ate, her other mother stared at her. It was hard to read expressions into those black button eyes, but Coraline thought that her other mother looked hungry too. She drank the orange juice, but even though she knew she would like it, she could not bring herself to taste the hot chocolate. Where should I start looking? Asked Coraline. Where you wish, said the other mother, as if she did not care at all. Coraline looked at her, and Coraline thought hard. There was no point, she decided, in exploring the garden and the grounds. They didn't exist. They weren't real. There was no abandoned tennis court in the other mother's world, no bottomless well. All that was real was the house itself. She looked around the kitchen. She opened the oven, peered into the freezer, poked into the salad compartment of the fridge. The other mother followed her about, looking at Coraline with a smirk always hovering at the edge of her lips. How big are souls anyway? Asked Coraline. The other mother sat down at the kitchen table and leaned back against the wall, saying nothing. She picked at her teeth with a long crimson varnished fingernail. Then she tapped the finger gently, tap, 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 against the polished black surface of her black button eyes. Fine, said Coraline. Don't tell me. I don't care. It doesn't matter if you help me or not. Everyone knows that a soul is the same size as a beach ball. She was hoping the other mother would say something like, nonsense, they're the size of ripe onions, or suitcases, or grandfather clocks. But the other mother simply smiled, and the tap-tap-tapping of her fingernail against her eye was as steady and relentless as the drip of water droplets from the faucet into the sink. And then Coraline realized It was simply the noise of the water, and she was alone in the room. Coraline shivered. She preferred the other mother to have a location. If she were nowhere, then she could be anywhere. And, after all, it is always easier to be afraid of something you cannot see. She put her hands into her pockets and her fingers closed around the reassuring shape of the stone with the hole in it. She pulled it out of her pocket, held it in front of her as if she were holding a gun, and walked out into the hall. There was no sound but the tap-tap of the water dripping into the metal sink. She glanced at the mirror at the end of the hall. For a moment it clouded over, and it seemed to her that faces swam in the glass, indistinct and shapeless, and then the faces were gone, and there was nothing in the mirror but a girl who was small for her age, holding something that glowed gently like a green coal. Coraline looked down at her hand, surprised. It was just a stone with a hole in it, a nondescript brown pebble. Then she looked back into the mirror where the stone glimmered like an emerald. A trail of green fire blew from the pebble in the mirror and drifted toward Coraline's bedroom. Said Coraline. She walked into the bedroom. The toys fluttered excitedly as she walked in, as if they were pleased to see her, and a little tank rolled out of the toy box to greet her, its tread rolling over several other toys. It fell from the toy box onto the floor, tipping as it fell, and it lay on the carpet like a beetle on its back, grumbling and grinding its treads before Coraline picked it up and turned it over. The tank fled under the bed in embarrassment. Coraline looked around the room. She looked in the cupboards and the drawers. Then she picked up one end of the toy box and tipped all the toys in it out onto the carpet, where they grumbled and stretched and wiggled awkwardly free of each other. A gray marble rolled across the floor and clicked against the wall. None of the toys looked particularly soul-like, she thought. She picked up and examined a silver charm bracelet from which hung tiny animal charms that chased each other around the perimeter of the bracelet, the fox never catching the rabbit, the bear never gaining on the fox. Coraline opened her hand and looked at the stone with the hole in it, hoping for a clue but not finding one. Most of the toys that had been in the toy box had now crawled away to hide under the bed, and the few toys that were left, a green plastic soldier, the glass marble, a vivid pink yo-yo and such, were the kinds of things you find in the bottoms of toy boxes in the real world, forgotten objects, abandoned and unloved. She was about to leave and look elsewhere, and then she remembered a voice in the darkness, a gentle whispering voice, and what it had told her to do. She raised the stone with the hole in it and held it in front of her right eye. She closed her left eye and looked at the room through this hole in the stone. Through the stone, the world was gray and colorless, like a pencil drawing. Everything in it was gray. No, not quite everything. Something glinted on the floor. Something the color of an ember in a nursery fireplace. The color of a scarlet and orange tulip nodding in the May sun. Coraline reached out her left hand, scared that if she took her eye off it, it would vanish, and she fumbled for the burning thing. Her fingers closed around something smooth and cool. She snatched it up, and then lowered the stone with the hole in it from her eye and looked down. The gray glass marble from the bottom of the toy box sat, dully, in the pink palm of her hand. She raised the stone to her eye once more and looked through it at the marble. Once again, the marble burned and flickered with a red fire. A voice whispered in her mind, "Indeed, lady, it comes to me that I certainly was a boy, now I do think on it. Oh, but you must hurry. There are 2 of us still to find, and the Bedlam is already angry with you for uncovering me." If I'm going to do this, thought Coraline, I'm not going to do it in her clothes. She changed back into her pajamas and her dressing gown and her slippers, leaving the gray sweater and the black jeans neatly folded up on the bed, the orange boots on the floor by the toy box. She put the marble into her dressing gown pocket and walked out into the hall. Something stung her face, and hands like sand blowing on a beach on a windy day. She covered her eyes and pushed forward. The sand stings got worse, and it got harder and harder to walk, as if she were pushing into the wind on a particularly blustery day, It was a vicious wind and a cold one. She took a step backwards, the way she had come. "Oh, keep going," whispered a ghost voice in her ear, for the Bedlam is angry. She stepped forward in the hallway, into another gust of wind, which stung her cheeks and face with invisible sand, sharp as needles, sharp as glass. "Play fair!" Coraline shouted into the wind. There was no reply, but the wind whipped about her one more time, petulantly, and then it dropped away and was gone. As she passed the kitchen, Coraline could hear, in the sudden silence, the drip, drip of the water from the leaking tap, or perhaps the other mother's long fingernails tapping impatiently against the table. Coraline resisted the urge to look. In a couple of strides, she reached the front door and she walked outside. Coraline went down the steps and around the house until she reached the other Miss Spink and Miss Forcible's flat. The lamps around the door were flickering on and off almost randomly now, spelling out no words that Coraline could understand. The door was closed. She was afraid it was locked, and she pushed on it with all her strength. First it stuck, then suddenly it gave, and with a jerk, Coraline stumbled into the dark room beyond. Coraline closed one hand around the stone with a hole in it, and walked forward into blackness. She expected to find a curtained anteroom, but there was nothing there. The room was dark. The theater was empty. She moved ahead cautiously. Something rustled above her. She looked up into a deeper darkness, and as she did so, her feet knocked against something. She reached down, picked up a flashlight, and clicked it on, sweeping the beam around the room. The theater was derelict and abandoned. Chairs were broken on the floor, and old dusty spiderwebs draped the walls and hung from the rotten wood and the decomposing velvet hangings. Something rustled once again. Coraline directed her light beam upward toward the ceiling. There were things up there, hairless jellyfish. She thought they might once have had faces, might even once have been dogs, but no dogs had wings like bats or could hang like spiders, like bats upside down. The light startled the creatures, and one of them took to the air, its wings whirring heavily through the dust. Coraline ducked as it swooped close to her. It came to rest on a far wall, and it began to clamber upside down, back to the nest of the dog bats upon the ceiling. Coraline raised the stone to her eye, and she scanned the room through it, looking for something that glowed or glinted, a telltale sign that somewhere in this room was another hidden soul. She ran the beam of the flashlight about the room as she searched, the thick dust in the air making the light beam seem almost solid. There was something up on the back wall behind the ruined stage. It was grayish-white, twice the size of Coraline herself, and it was stuck to the back wall like a slug. Coraline took a deep breath. "I'm not afraid," she told herself. "I'm not." She did not believe herself, but she scrambled up onto the old stage, fingers sinking into the rotten wood as she pulled herself up. As she got closer to the thing on the wall, she saw that it was some kind of sack, like a spider's egg case. It twitched inside in the light beam. Inside the sack was something that looked like a person, but a person with two heads, with twice as many arms and legs as it should have. The creature in the sack seemed horribly unformed and unfinished, as if two plasticine people had been warmed and rolled together, squashed, and pressed into one thing. Coraline hesitated. She did not want to approach the thing. The dog bats dropped, one by one, from the ceiling and began to circle the room, coming close to her but never touching her. Perhaps there are no souls hidden in here, she thought. Perhaps I can just leave and go somewhere else. She took a last look through the hole in the stone. The abandoned theater was still a bleak gray, but now there was a brown glow, as rich and bright as polished cherrywood, coming from inside the sack. Whatever was glowing was being held in one of the hands of the thing on the wall. Coraline walked slowly across the damp stage, trying to make as little noise as she could, afraid that if she disturbed the thing in the sack, it would open its eyes and see her, and then... But there was nothing that she could think of as scary as having it look at her. Her heart pounded in her chest. She took another step forward. Hey, Celeste, welcome in. Hope you've been well. We're reading some Coraline today. We're in chapter 8, I believe. 8 or 9. Page 102. Hydrate. Alright, I'll take another sip for you, Poofy. Thank you. She had never been so scared, but she walked forward until she reached the sack. Then she pushed her hand into the sticky, clinging whiteness of the stuff on the wall. It crackled softly like a tiny fire as she pushed, and it clung to her skin and clothes like a spiderweb clings, like white cotton candy. She pushed her hand into it, and she reached upward until she touched a cold hand, which was, she could feel, closed around another glass marble. The creature's skin felt slippery, as if it had been covered in jelly. Coraline tugged at the marble. At first, nothing happened. It was held tight in the creature's grasp. Then, one by one, the fingers loosened their grip, and the marble slipped into her hand. She pulled her arm back through the sticky webbing, relieved that the thing's eyes had not opened. She shone the light on its faces. They resembled, she decided, the younger versions of Miss Spink and Miss Forcible, but twisted and squeezed together, like two lumps of wax that had melted and melded together into one ghastly thing. Without warning, one of the creature's hands made a grab for Coraline's arm. Its fingernails scraped her skin, but it was too slippery to grip, and Coraline pulled away successfully. And then the eyes opened, 4 black buttons glinting and staring down at her, and 2 voices that sounded like no voice that Coraline had ever heard began to speak to her. One of them wailed and whispered, the other buzzed like a fat and angry blue bottle at a window pane, but the voices said, as one person, "Thief, give it back, stop, thief." The air became alive with dog bats. Coraline began to back away. She realized then that, terrifying though the thing on the wall that had once been the other Mrs. Spink and Miss Forcible was, it was attached to the wall by its web, encased in its cocoon. It could not follow her. The dog bats flapped and fluttered about her, but they did nothing to hurt Coraline. She climbed down from the stage, shone the flashlight about the old theater looking for the way out. "Flee, miss," wailed a girl's voice in her head. "Flee now. You have 2 of us. Flee this place while your blood still flows." Kira, thank you for the hydrate. Welcome in. How are you doing today? Coraline dropped the marble into her pocket beside the other. She spotted the door, ran to it, and pulled on it until it opened. You're okay? Yeah, I'm doing what I can. Oh my god, that didn't sound like I was doing what I can. Yeah, I'm doing alright. I'll take another sip for you. Yeah, we could take a short break, just like chat a little bit. Food time done, you're back. Welcome in. Welcome back. You guys enjoying Coraline? I definitely am. I'm starting to think when I watched the movie, I may have watched less than half. Because none of this sounds familiar. Creepy, good story? Yeah, such an oddly creepy story, right? I feel like Neil Gaiman has such an interesting writing style. It kind of feels like we're reading a children's story, but yet there are so many moments that just like get under your skin, you know? Mm-hmm. Very talented writer, that's for sure. A stretch? I can do that. You know, we've been reading Coraline for about an hour now. Once we finish a little break, do we want to continue Coraline, or shall we read a bit of Edgar Allan Poe? Or if anyone else has suggestions, I'd be willing to take some. Kira, you're so cute. Poe may or may not be a favorite of yours. So perhaps we move to some Poe pretty shortly. Yes, please. Okay, we can do that. The Mask of the Red Death was one that was recommended to me, and I don't think I read it yet. What do you think of that one, Kira? How about we do this? We'll read one more chapter of Coraline since they're pretty short, and then after this chapter, we'll read a bit of Poe. I don't think I'll keep going for a terribly long time. You read that a lot. It's a good one. Noted. Yeah, I can start to kind of feel it in my voice. I don't want to go overboard, but yeah, I think that's a good plan. We'll read one more chapter of Coraline, then Mask of the Red Death. Cool. I like that. I like that plan a lot. All right. Actually, I'm going to take a second to clear my throat. Okay. Chapter 9. Outside, the world had become a formless, swirling mist with no shapes or shadows behind it, while the house itself seemed to have twisted and stretched. It seemed to Coraline that it was crouching and staring down at her, as if it were not really a house, but only the idea of a house. And the person who had the idea, she was certain, was not a good person. There was sticky web stuff clinging to her arm, and she wiped it off as best she could. The gray windows of the house slanted at strange angles. Sorry, just one moment. The other mother was waiting for her, standing on the grass with her arms folded. Her black button eyes were expressionless, but her lips were pressed tightly together in a cold fury. When she saw Coraline, she reached out one long white hand, and she crooked a finger. Coraline walked toward her. The other mother said nothing. "I got two," said Coraline, "one soul still to go." The expression on the other mother's face did not change. She might not have heard what Coraline said. "Well, I just thought you'd want to know," said Coraline. "Thank you, Coraline," said the other mother coldly. and her voice did not just come from her mouth. It came from the mist and the fog and the house and the sky. She said, "You know that I love you." And despite herself, Coraline nodded. It was true. The other mother loved her. But she loved Coraline as a miser loves money or a dragon loves its gold. In the other mother's button eyes, Coraline knew that she was a possession, nothing more, a tolerated pet whose behavior was no longer amusing. "I don't want your love," said Coraline. "I don't want anything from you." "Not even a helping hand?" asked the other mother. "You have been doing so well after all. I thought you might want a little hint to help you with the rest of your treasure hunt." "I'm doing fine on my own," said Coraline. "Yes," said the other mother. "But if you wanted to get into the flat in the front, the empty one, to look around, you would find the door locked, and then where would you be?" "The one Nemo. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to the powerhouse. I'm glad to have you here." "Oh," Coraline pondered this for a moment. Then she said, "Is there a key?" The other mother stood there in the paper gray fog of the flattening world. Her black hair drifted about her head, as if it had a mind and a purpose all of its own. She coughed suddenly in the back of her throat, and then she opened her mouth. "Bream, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the powerhouse. Thank you for having you. Yeah, thank you for being here. It's my pleasure." The other mother reached up her hand and removed a small brass front door key from her tongue. "Here," she said, "you'll need this to get in." She tossed the key casually toward Coraline, who caught it one-handed before she could think about whether she wanted it or not. The key was still slightly damp. A chill wind blew about them, and Coraline shivered and looked away. When she looked back, she was alone. "Just listening in while playing Overwatch?" Aw, thank you, Bream. I appreciate that. Uncertainly, she walked around to the front of the house and stood in front of the door to the empty flat. Like all the doors, it was painted bright green. "She does not mean you well," whispered a ghost voice in her ear. "We do not believe that she would help you. It must be a trick." Coraline said, "Yes, you're right, I expect." Then she put the key in the lock and turned it. Silently, the door swung open, and silently Coraline walked inside. The flat had walls the color of old milk. The wooden boards of the floor were uncarpeted and dusty with the marks and patterns of old carpet and rugs on them. There was no furniture in there, only places where furniture had once been. Nothing decorated the walls. There were discolored rectangles on the walls to show where paintings or photographs had once hung. It was so silent that Coraline imagined that she could hear the motes of dust drifting through the air. She found herself to be quite worried that something would jump out at her, so she began to whistle. She thought it might make it harder for things to jump out at her if she was whistling. First, she walked through the empty kitchen. Then she walked through an empty bathroom containing only a cast iron bath, and in the bath a dead spider the size of a small cat. The last room she looked at had, she supposed, once been a bedroom. She could imagine that the rectangular dust shadow on the floorboards had once been a bed. Then she saw something and smiled grimly. Set into the floorboards was a large metal ring. Coraline knelt and took the cold ring in her hands, and she tugged upward as hard as she could. Terribly slowly, stiffly, heavily, a hinged square of floor lifted. It was a trap door. It lifted, and through the opening Coraline could see only darkness. She reached down, and her hand found a cold switch. She flicked it without much hope that it would work, but somewhere below her a bulb lit, and a thin yellow light came up from the hole in the floor. She could see steps heading down, but nothing else. "Hi, Donut Cat. Thank you for your well wishes as always." Coraline put her hand into her pocket and took out the stone with the hole in it. She looked through it at the cellar, but saw nothing. She put the stone back into her pocket. Up through the hole came the smell of damp clay and something else, an acrid tang like sour vinegar. Coraline let herself down into the hole, looking nervously at the trapdoor. You came here from YouTube? Whoa, I think you might be the first. I have not been putting much effort into YouTube, to be honest. But I appreciate that a lot. Thank you very much. It was so heavy that if it fell, she was sure she would be trapped down in the darkness forever. I appreciate you too. She put up a hand and touched it, but it stayed in position. And then she turned toward the darkness below, and she walked down the steps. Nemo, thank you for the Prime sub. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I very much appreciate the support. Look at you coming in here and making my day all warm and fuzzy. And then she turned on the darkness below and she walked down the steps. Set into the wall at the bottom of the steps was another light switch, metal and rusting. She pushed it until it clicked down, and a naked bulb hanging from a wire from the low ceiling came on. It did not give up enough light even for Coraline to make out the things that had been painted onto the flaking cellar walls. The painting seemed crude. There were eyes, she could see that, and things that might have been grapes, and other things below them. Coraline could not be sure that they were paintings of people. There was a pile of rubbish in one corner of the room, cardboard boxes filled with mildewed paper and decaying curtains in a heap beside them. Coraline's slippers crunched across the cement floor. The bad smell was worse now. She was ready to turn and leave when she saw the foot sticking out from beneath the pile of curtains. She took a deep breath. The smell of sour wine and moldy bread filled her head, and she pulled away the damp cloth to reveal something more or less the size and shape of a person. In that dim light, it took her several seconds to recognize it for what it was. The thing was pale and swollen like a grub, with thin, stick-like arms and feet. It had almost no features on its face, which had puffed and swollen like risen bread dough. The thing had 2 large black buttons where its eyes should have been. Coraline made a noise, a sound of revulsion and horror, and as if it had heard her and awakened, the thing began to sit up. Coraline stood there, frozen. The thing turned its head until both its black button eyes were pointed straight at her. A mouth opened in the mouthless face, strands of pale stuff sticking to the lips, and a voice that no longer even faintly resembled her father's whispered, "Coraline." "Well," said Coraline to the thing that had once been her other father, "at least you didn't jump out at me." The creature's twig-like hands moved to its face and pushed the pale clay about, making something like a nose. It said nothing. "I'm looking for my parents," said Coraline, "or a stolen soul from one of the other children. Are they down here?" "There is nothing down here," said the pale thing indistinctly. "Nothing but dust and damp and forgetting." The thing was white and huge and swollen. Monstrous, thought Coraline, but also miserable. She raised the stone with the hole in it to her eye and looked through it. Nothing. The pale thing was telling her the truth. "Poor thing," she said. "I bet she's made you come down here as a punishment for telling me too much." The thing hesitated, then it nodded. Coraline wondered how she could ever have imagined that this grub-like thing resembled her father. "I'm so sorry," she said. "She's not best pleased," said the thing that was once the other father. "Not best pleased at all. You've put her quite out of sorts, and when she gets out of sorts, she takes it out on everybody else. It's her way." Coraline patted its hairless head. Its skin was tacky, like warm bread dough. "Poor thing," she said. "You're just the thing she made and then threw away." The thing nodded vigorously. As it nodded, the left button eye fell off and clattered onto the concrete floor. The thing looked around vacantly with its one eye, as if it had lost her. Finally, it saw her, and, as if making a great effort, it opened its mouth once more and said in a wet, urgent voice, "Run, child. Leave this place. She wants me to hurt you, to keep you here forever, so that you can never finish the game and she will win. She is pushing me so hard to hurt you, I cannot fight her." "You can," Coraline said. "Be brave." She looked around. The thing that had once been the other father was between her and the steps up and out the cellar. She started edging along the wall, heading toward the steps. The thing twisted bonelessly until its one eye was again facing her. It seemed to be getting bigger now and more awake. Alas, it said, I cannot. And it lunged across the cellar toward her then, its toothless mouth opened wide. Coraline had a single heartbeat in which to react. She could only think of two things to do. Either she could scream and try to run away, and be chased around a badly lit cellar by the huge grub thing, be chased until it caught her, or she could do something else. So she did something else. As the thing reached her, Coraline put out her hand and closed it around the thing's remaining button eye, and she tugged as hard as she knew how. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the button came away and flew from her hand, clicking against the walls before it fell to the cellar floor. The thing froze in place. It threw its pale head back blindly and opened its mouth horribly wide, and it roared its anger and frustration. Then, all in a rush, the thing swept towards the place where Coraline had been standing. But Coraline was not standing there any longer. She was already tiptoeing as quietly as she could up the steps that would take her away from the dim cellar with the crude paintings on the wall. She could not take her eyes from the floor beneath her, though, across which the pale thing flopped and writhed, hunting for her. Then, as if it was being told what to do, the creature stopped moving and its blind head tipped to one side. It's listening for me, thought Coraline. I must be extra quiet. She took another step up, and her foot slipped on the step, and the thing heard her. Its head tipped toward her. For a moment it swayed, and seemed to be gathering its wits. Then, fast as a serpent, it slithered for the steps and began to flow up them, toward her. Coraline turned and ran, wildly, up the last half-dozen steps, as she pushed herself up and onto the floor of the dusty bedroom. Without pausing, she pulled the heavy trapdoor toward her and let go of it. It crashed down with a thump just as something large banged against it. The trapdoor shook and rattled in the floor, but it stayed where it was. Coraline took a deep breath. If there had been any furniture in that flat, even a chair, she would have pulled it onto the trapdoor, but there was nothing. She walked out of that flat as fast as she could, without actually ever running, and she locked the front door behind her. She left the door key under the mat, then she walked down onto the drive. She had half expected that the other mother would be standing there waiting for Coraline to come out, but the world was silent and empty. Coraline wanted to go home. She hugged herself and told herself that she was brave, and she almost believed herself, and then she walked around to the side of the house in the gray mist that wasn't a mist, and she made for the stairs to go up. And that's the end of chapter 9. I'm very much enjoying Coraline. It looks like we're almost 2/3 of the way through. Actually, maybe more than 2/3 of the way through. All right. Stretch time? That sounds like stretch time. Yeah. I gave you a free one. Is that so, Nemo? I'm very happy. Poofy posture check? I got you. You noticed? Let's see. All right, so now we move on to Edgar Allan Poe. Actually, before we do that, I think I'll take a moment and refresh my water because I've gone through my bottle again. Um, so I'll be back in just a moment. Oh no, Nemo, I hope you feel better soon. You got more water too? Good girl. Yes, my name is Mido, and you are my lovely little chondrias. So that's why we have a mitochondria as the stream mascot. You've been sick for a while. Oh, I'm sorry. I hope you're doing okay. It's so cute. Yeah, I love the Mito Charmed. If you notice, all of the mitochondria emotes start with a CH. Yeah. I think so too. Okay. You like this one? Yeah. Gremlin energy just showing off the shiny dome. Yeah, I like that one too. But apparently my Discord server does not like it because they wanted it to be a follower emote. And I'm kind of sad. I might just make it a tier 1 emote again anyways because I like using it in other channels. When people talk about me being bald, it's the perfect one. We'll see what happens. Yeah. um I'd like to double check something real quick. Okay. I see. So a friend of mine is doing her subathon right now, and I'm trying to gauge how long she'll be live, because I'm trying to see if it's like a good idea to raid her, or if she'll still be live when I'm finishing. I wish that follower emotes were across. I know, me too. Sometimes I forget which emotes are follower emotes or not. Like I've raided people a couple of times using a raid message that used follower emotes, and I was just sad when the text just came through, and I'm like, no, yeah, yeah, it's tragic, isn't it? But it is what it is, you know. I think worst case scenario, I see a few other people that I can raid, but I've been wanting to support CC in her subathon, and I haven't really been able to so far because I've been working when she's live. Wow, it looks like Juzo's subathon is still going on too. I haven't hung out with him in his subathon yet. Hopefully, I'll get the chance to. Oh, it looks like his subathon is going for 147 more hours. So yeah, I think I'll get the chance to. God damn, that's fucking awesome. Or Juzo's is a donathon, isn't it? Yeah. He's doing a donathon. Yeah, Juzo invited me to hang out on his subathon, which I haven't had the chance to take him up on that yet. But yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised. But he's a very cool guy. All right. Enough being distracted by cute people on Twitch. Yeah. I think we have a story to read. The Mask of the Red Death by Edgar Allan Poe. Hey, Foxy, welcome in. Hope you're doing well today. You guys like that Might Have Charmed emote? I think it's so damn cute. It was inspired by an emote from someone named Maya. She has an emote that she calls Maya Blushy, but it's a tier 2 emote, so I don't have it. Or I think it's a tier 3 emote, actually. So unfortunately, I don't got the money to tier 3 to people. But it's such a cute emote, and I use it on Discord a lot. Actually, I'll put the emote in Discord. I'll just put it in general. Yeah. Maya Blushy. If you want to go see it, here's the Discord link. It's so cute. But the artist who did mine, Sebi, I think she did a fantastic job. Made it look really cute. Akife gift sub. Nice. It's always a pleasurable feeling getting gifted a sub to a channel that has nice emotes. You need to take a break from editing. Yeah, I know how draining that can be. God, I haven't done any editing in such a long time. I really gotta get to it, get some work done. You know, I haven't posted a TikTok in so long, and my clips are building up. Every time I play Valorant on stream, I clip cool moments. I really just gotta put them together in a compilation at this point, make a YouTube video. Just do something productive. It's just so difficult. Maybe I'll just chill in Discord one day and edit if you guys want to join me. I would love the company. You don't have a TikTok? Just not doing stuff? Well, there's one way to change that. Make a TikTok. Or start posting on YouTube Shorts. YouTube Shorts are definitely a good thing. You know, TikTok TikTok has this thing where if they can tell that you edited your videos in another editing suite, then they kind of flag them and you don't get as much exposure. But YouTube does not do that. So Shorts might be the way to go. But I mean, I say that, but some of my TikToks have blown up way harder than anything I've put on YouTube. Even the same videos I've like posted both on YouTube and TikTok. And yeah, I have a TikTok video that has hit like 25,000 views, I think. Maybe more at this point. Can't remember. There's another that's at like 12,000. Oh, it hit 30,000. What the hell? Yeah, 30,000 views on the one. 13.2K on another. I think there's another one with... Oh, another with 10K. Another with 8K. Yeah, most of them are around like 300. But I've got lucky with some TikTok stuff, I guess. But one thing that I also don't like about TikTok is that it's region locked. So because it knows I'm in Japan, it's recommending like 99% of the people who watch my TikToks live in Japan, and I want to market to an English speaking audience. So that's another reason why I'm looking forward to moving back to the States. I guess if you want to check out my TikTok, you can check out my link tree. But yeah, you can obviously still see my TikToks if you don't live in Japan, but like it's not going to show up in recommended unless you are already following me, probably. Yeah. But moral of the story is I need to get my shit together and start editing again. And maybe doing it in Discord with you guys would help me stay accountable and productive. Yeah, we could watch some of my clips together, see what's worth using, what's not. You need a head massage? Your brain is overworking? Aw. Yeah, just lay back, close your eyes, and relax. You like working like streams? I don't think I would edit on stream. I tried it one time and I had like 2 viewers. I think one of them was myself. Yeah. Yeah, bad poofy. Yeah, editing is a tedious thing. It really is. It really is. I feel like it doesn't always make for good content. Especially when you have to sort through footage. It's not easy. Okay. The Mask of the Red Death. This doesn't look too long. Same with audio, tedious work. I don't know the first thing about editing audio. It's hard to listen to. Also, having to run through things a couple of times to get timing right. Yeah, absolutely. That's very true. Like the amount of times I have to like slide through backwards through a clip and like get some weird audio shit going through. Just to like find the right starting time to like cut and stuff. Yeah. Not the best thing to listen to. Rather just keep that to Discord where people can do other things and, you know. You're gonna have to teach me? What software do you use to edit audio? Do you use Audacity? Ah, Nemo, thank you for joining the Discord. There's Audacity, yeah. I've used Audacity for some stuff. You know my my villain theme music that I play sometimes? I used Audacity to loop it so that the intro wouldn't play every time and there wasn't space between the like playthrough. Like if I just put it on repeat, there'd be space and then it would reset and play the intro again. So I just did that myself. But God, it was tedious. And I feel like Audacity isn't the best program. It like crashes sometimes for me. I don't know. Maybe you can give me a rundown of how to fix some stuff, Poofy. Your autocorrect is giving you headaches? Aw. All right. Let's read this story. What the fuck is this word? Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds good. The Red Death had long devastated the country. No pestilence had ever been so fatal or so hideous. Blood was its avatar, and its seal the redness and the horror of blood. There were sharp pains and sudden dizziness, and then profuse bleeding at the pores with dissolution. The scarlet stains upon the body, and especially upon the face of the victim, were the pest ban which shut him out from the aid and from the sympathy of his fellow men. And the whole seizure, progress, and termination of the disease were the incidents of half an hour. But the Prince Prospero was happy and dauntless and sagacious. When his dominions were half depopulated, he summoned to his presence 1,000 hale and light-hearted friends from among the knights and dames of his court, and with these retired to the deep seclusion of one of his castellated abbeys. This was an extensive and magnificent structure, the creation of the prince's own eccentric yet august taste. A strong and lofty wall girdled in it. This wall had gates of iron. The courtiers, having entered, brought furnaces and massy hammers and welded the bolts. They resolved to leave means neither of ingress or egress to the sudden impulses of despair or of frenzy from within. The abbey was amply provisioned. With such precautions, the courtiers might bid defiance to contagion. The external world could take care of itself. In the meantime, it was folly to grieve or to think. The prince had provided all the appliances of pleasure. There were buffoons, there were improvisatori, there were ballet dancers, there were musicians, there was beauty, there was wine. All these and security were within. Without was the Red Death. It was towards the close of the 5th or 6th month of his seclusion, and while the pestilence raged most furiously abroad, that the Prince Prospero entertained his 1,000 friends at a masked ball of the most unusual magnificence. It was a voluptuous scene, that masquerade. But first, let me tell of the rooms in which it was held. There were 7, an imperial suite. In many palaces, however, such suites form a long and straight vista, while the folding doors slide back nearly to the walls on either hand, so that the view of the whole extent is scarcely impeded. Here the case was very different, as might have been expected from the Duke's love of the bizarre. The apartments were so irregularly disposed that the vision embraced but little more than one at a time. There was a sharp turn at every 20 or 30 yards, and at each turn a novel effect. To the right and left, in the middle of each wall, a tall and narrow Gothic window looked out upon a closed corridor which pursued the windings of the suite. These windows were of stained glass whose color varied in accordance with the prevailing hue of the decorations of the chamber into which it opened. That at the eastern extremity was hung, for example, in blue, and vividly blue were its windows. The second chamber was purple in its ornaments and tapestries, and here the panes were purple. The third was green throughout, and so were the casements. The fourth was furnished and lighted with orange, the fifth with white, the sixth with violet. The 7th apartment was closely shrouded in black velvet tapestries that hung all over the ceiling and down the walls, falling in heavy folds upon the carpet of the same material and hue. But in this chamber only, the color of the windows failed to correspond with the decorations. The panes here were scarlet, a deep blood color. Hi viva. Now in no one of the 7 apartments was there any lamp or candelabrum, amid the profusion of golden ornaments that lay scattered to and fro and depended from the roof. There was no light of any kind emanating from lamp or candle within the suite of chambers. But in the corridors that followed the suite, there stood, opposite to each window, a heavy tripod bearing a brazier of fire that projected its rays through the tinted glass and so glaringly illumined the room, and thus were produced a multitude of gaudy and fantastic appearances. But in the western or black chamber, the effect of the firelight that streamed upon the dark hangings through the blood-tinted panes was ghastly in the extreme, and produced so wild a look upon the countenances of those who entered that there were few of the company bold enough to set foot within its precincts at all. It was in this apartment also that there stood against the western wall a gigantic clock of ebony. Its pendulum swung to and fro with a dull, heavy, monotonous clang, and when the minute hand made the circuit of the face and the hour was to be stricken, there came from the brazen lungs of the clock a sound which was clear and loud and deep and exceedingly musical, but of so peculiar a note and emphasis that, at each lapse of an hour, the musicians of the orchestra were constrained to pause momentarily in their performance to hearken to the sound, and thus the waltzers perforce ceased their evolutions, and there was a brief disconcert of the whole gay company, and while the chimes of the clock yet rang, it was observed that the giddiest grew pale, and the more aged and sedate passed their hands over their brows as if in confused reverie or meditation. But when the echoes had fully ceased, a light laughter at once pervaded the assembly. The musicians looked at each other and smiled as if at their own nervousness and folly, and made whispering vows, each to the other, that the next chiming of the clock should produce in them no similar emotion. And then, after the lapse of 60 minutes, which embraced 3,600 seconds of the time that flies, there came yet another chiming of the clock, and then were the same disconcert and tremulousness and meditation as before. But, in spite of these things, it was a gay and magnificent revel. The tastes of the Duke were peculiar. He had a fine eye for colors and effects. He disregarded the decora of mere fashion. His plans were bold and fiery, and his conceptions glowed with barbaric luster. There are some who would have thought him mad. His followers felt that he was not. It was necessary to hear and see and touch him to be sure that he was not. He had directed, in great part, the movable embellishments of the 7 chambers upon occasion of this great fete, and it was his own guiding taste which had given character to the masqueraders. Be sure they were grotesque. There were much glare and glitter and piquancy and phantasm, much of what has been seen in Hernani. There were arabesque figures with unsuited limbs and appointments. There were delirious fancies, such as the madman fashions. There were much of the beautiful, much of the wanton, much of the bizarre, something of the terrible, and not a little of that which might have excited disgust. To and fro, in the 7 chambers there stalked, in fact, a multitude of dreams, and these, the dreams, writhed in and about, taking hue from the rooms, and causing the wild music of the orchestra to seem as the echo of their steps. And anon, there strikes the ebony clock which stands in the hall of the velvet, and then, for a moment, all is still, and all is silent save for the voice of the clock. The dreams are stiff frozen as they stand, but the echoes of the chime die away. They have endured but an instant, and a light, half-subdued laughter floats after them as they depart. And now again the music swells, and the dreams live, and writhe to and fro more merrily than ever, taking hue from the many-tinted windows through which stream the rays from the tripods. But to the chamber which lies most westwardly of the 7, there are now none of the maskers who venture, for the night is waning away, and there flows a ruddier light through the blood-colored panes, and the blackness of the sable drapery appalls, and to him whose foot falls upon the sable carpet, there comes from the near clock of ebony a muffled peal more solemnly emphatic than any which reaches their ears who indulge in the more remote gaiety of the other apartments. But these other apartments were densely crowded, and in them beat feverishly the heart of life, and the revel went whirlingly on, until at length there commenced the sounding of midnight upon the clock, and then the music ceased, as I have told, and the evolutions of the waltzers were quieted, and there was an uneasy cessation of all things as before. But now there were 12 strokes to be sounded by the bell of the clock, and thus it happened, perhaps, that more of thought crept, with more of time, into the meditations of the thoughtful among those who revelled, reveled? And thus, too, it happened. Perhaps that before the last echoes of the chime had utterly sunk into silence, there were many individuals in the crowd who had found leisure to become aware of the presence of a masked figure which had arrested the attention of no single individual before. And the rumor of this new presence having spread itself whisperingly around, there arose at length from the whole company a buzz, or murmur, expressive of disapprobation and surprise, then finally of terror, of horror, and of disgust. In an assembly of phantasms such as I have painted, it may well be supposed that no ordinary appearance could have excited such sensation. In truth, the masquerade license of the night was nearly unlimited, but the figure in question had out-Heroded Herod, and gone beyond the bounds of even the prince's indefinite decorum. There are chords in the heart of the most reckless which cannot be touched without emotion. Even with the utterly lost, to whom life and death are equally jests, there are matters of which no jest can be made. The whole company, indeed, seemed now deeply to feel that in the costume and bearing of the stranger neither wit nor propriety existed. The figure was tall and gaunt, and shrouded from head to foot in the habiliments of the grave. The mask which concealed the visage was made so nearly to resemble the countenance of a stiffened corpse that the closest scrutiny must have had difficulty in detecting the cheat. And yet all this might have been endured, if not approved, by the mad revellers around. But the mummer had gone so far as to assume the type of the Red Death. His vesture was dabbled in blood, and his broad brow, with all the features of the face, was besprinkled with the scarlet horror. When the eyes of Prince Prospero fell upon this spectral image, with which a slow and solemn movement, as if more fully to sustain its role, stalked to and fro among the waltzers, he was seen to be convulsed, in the first moment with a strong shudder either of terror or distaste, but in the next his brow reddened with rage. "Who dares," he demanded hoarsely of the courtiers who stood near him, "who dares insult us with this blasphemous mockery? Seize him and unmask him, that we may know whom we have to hang at sunrise from the battlements." It was in the eastern or blue chamber in which stood the Prince Prospero as he uttered these words. They rang throughout the 7 rooms loudly and clearly, for the prince was a bold and robust man, and the music had become hushed at the waving of his hand. It was in the blue room where stood the prince, with a group of pale courtiers by his side. At first, as he spoke, there was a slight rushing movement of this group in the direction of the intruder, who at the moment was also near at hand, and now, with deliberate and stately step, made closer approach to the speaker. But from a certain nameless awe with which the mad assumptions of the mummer had inspired the whole party, there were found none who put forth hand to seize him, so that, unimpeded, he passed within a yard of the prince's person, and while the vast assembly, as if with one impulse, shrank from the centers of the room to the walls, he made his way uninterruptedly, but with the same solemn and measured step which had distinguished him from the first, through the blue chamber to the purple to the green to the orange, through this again to the white, and even thence to the violet, ere a decided movement had been made to arrest him. It was then, however, that the Prince Prospero, maddening with rage and the shame of his own momentary cowardice, rushed hurriedly through the 6 chambers, while none followed him on account of a deadly terror that had seized upon all. He bore aloft a drawn dagger, and had approached in rapid impetuosity to within 3 or 4 feet of the retreating figure, when the latter, having attained the extremity of the velvet apartment, turned suddenly and confronted his pursuer. There was a sharp cry, and the dagger dropped gleaming upon the sable carpet, upon which, instantly afterwards, fell prostrate in death the Prince Prospero. Then, summoning the wild courage of despair, a throng of the revellers at once threw themselves into the black apartment, and seizing the mummer, whose tall figure stood erect and motionless within the shadow of the ebony clock, gasped in unutterable horror at finding the grave cerements and corpse-like mask which they had handled with so violent a rudeness untenanted untenanted by any tangible form. And now was acknowledged the presence of the Red Death. He had come like a thief in the night, and one by one dropped the revelers in the blood-bedewed halls of their revel, and died each in the despairing posture of his fall, and the life of the ebony clock went out with that of the last of the gay, and the flames of the tripods expired, and darkness and decay and the Red Death held illimitable dominion over all. Damn, I should practice that before reading it. There are some crazy fucking words in this story. My goodness. Wow, wow, wow. What an interesting piece. It's cozy to listen to? I'm glad you think so. Shakespeare would be harder, probably. Yeah, you're probably right. He made shit up. Yeah, that's true. That's true, that's true. Let's see. Yeah, I feel that. I don't know half of what I said either. I gotta like read this intentionally, you know? Alright, but I think that's a good place to call it. I should probably go easy on my voice, you know? And let's find someone to raid. Actually, let's raid Juzo, yeah? Let's raid Juzo. Stretch? I can stretch for you. I want to raid Juzo because I feel like he'll go longer than CC will. I would love to raid CC, but I'm afraid she's going to end soon. Actually, you know what? I've never raided CC yet, and CC's a sweetheart. Let's raid CC. I want to do it. I want to make sure that she's not going to end soon. She's playing Phasmo. Yeah. We're going to raid CC. And then maybe next time I'm live, well... Actually, I don't know when the next time I'll get a chance to raid Juzo either. But I want to raid CC. I want to do it because she's such a sweetheart. She's drinking too? Okay, she might keep going. Okay, what do we want for a raid message? Let's see. Happy subathon. Yeah. I like that. He's been going for 10 days and may have 10 more ahead of him. Yeah, it looks like he'll be going for a while. So maybe next weekend I'll have a chance to raid him. Maybe. But CC is absolutely fucking lovely. And you know what? I want to spread some love to her. I appreciate all of you guys for hanging out with me today. I'll be live next on Tuesday. But tomorrow I am playing with CC on her subathon. And then after that, I'll be playing Valorant on Ryan's channel. So if you guys want to catch that, I'll post a link in the Discord as well tomorrow when we do that. But yeah, go follow Ryan as well because he's a cool guy. I'll be playing Valorant with him. So look out for that. I'll give more details in the Discord. Speaking of which, join the Discord. But for now, let's go spread some love to CC. She deserves it. She's such a sweetheart. She's so much fun. Let's go chill with her. I'll see you guys next time, okay? Bye. Love you guys.
Okay, are we leaving?
I don't know. Oh wait, it did prevent a hunt. Okay, we can go.